Oh my goodness, this was the start of the ESPN era. How are we all feeling about the start of the ESPN era? This era to me feels very much the same as the old era, as the Peacock era. I don't really see much of a difference between the two. The services have changed though. Access to the services is a little bit different than it might have been before. Even though this was the start of the ESPN era, if you took my advice, you would have been using your ExpressVPN to watch this show on Netflix and not had to worry about paying $30 if you are one of those people who do not have access yet to the new ESPN service, as I know some of you don't. That's where I watched the show tonight. There was a lot of hype for this show. for a lot of reasons. Obviously, WWE, in part, I think it's safe to say, chose to run a show on this date for a very particular reason. There was another wrestling show that was going on tonight. Originally, it was supposed to go on at 8 p.m. And that wrestling show got bumped up by about 5 hours. But it was also the start of the ESPN era. And they've been doing press all week long, all weekend long. I mean, just for days and days and days. Sports Center has been covering it. The college football games today had advertisements for Wrestlepalooza, right? Big press for WWE. And Triple H was hyping the show up. Everybody was hyping the show up. And what we got was your average WWE PLE. It was not a bad show. It was not a great show. I would say it was a solid show trending to good. It was a good show because you had some matches on the show that, the quality of those matches helped lift the show up. But when you consider what we were looking for here, in this show with some of these matches and all the hype around it and everything else, I was expecting something more than what we got. And when it was over, especially the way that main event went off the air, I was like, that's it? That's it? Really? I don't know. That was my feeling when this show was over. I'll tell you what, the ladies carried this show. I feel very comfortable sitting here and telling you that I believe the ladies carried this show. Becky Lynch and AJ Lee in their tag team match, and then Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky for the vacant Women's World Championship. That was a quality match. The women really did carry this show, if we're being honest here. Now, in the main event, we had Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. They closed the show. Now, when I found out that they were not closing the show with John Cena and Brock Lesnar, and they were going to close the show with Cody and Drew, and I even talked about this in the SmackDown review last night, I said, they must have something big planned here. And it might revolve around Randy Orton. Maybe Randy Orton's going to come out. He'll be involved in some way, or he'll come out after the match. But they've got to have some sort of angle. Or maybe they're going to do a title change, which I didn't really believe. But I just felt something big has to happen. I understand it's the WWE Championship, so they might just want to close with the title. But something's got to be going on, right? And then I watched the match tonight with Cody and Drew, and the match was fine. I mean, it was your, standard good match. There was nothing terribly special about it. And then when it was over and Cody, who is still the champion, of course, is celebrating with the WWE title, I'm sitting here waiting thinking, okay, something's about to happen. Someone's going to come out, his next challenger, or something with Orton. Something is going to happen here. And then nothing. Then I see Joe Tessitore on my screen because they're already pitching it to the post show. And I said, oh, I guess we're done here. I guess this is the big ending that they had planned for this show. Okay, Drew McIntyre, a loser yet again. This close to the big one. He can't quite make it back to the top of the mountain. Better luck next time, Drew. Cody, still your WWE champion. Stephanie Vaquer, Io Sky. We were guaranteed to have a new women's world champion tonight because the title has been vacant for over a month. And that was the match I was looking forward to probably the most on this show. I was looking forward to the mixed tag also. But this was the match I was probably looking most forward to on this show. That match delivered. We got exactly the kind of match that we would have expected to get between two of the best women's wrestlers, two of the best wrestlers in the world today. Maybe a little surprised by the finish and who went over and got the title. But also keep in mind that the next PLE they have is in Perth, October 11th. It's going to be Crown Jewel. And they've already made the announcement that they are going back to the Crown Jewel title matches where it's going to be champion against champion from each brand. So keeping that in mind, we now know that we are going to be getting Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. And by the way, knowing that coming into tonight, it should have been obvious that Cody was not going to lose the title because they were not going to do Seth against Drew at Crown Jewel. Why would they do that? So you kind of knew that Cody was keeping the title. Cody and Seth appears to be the direction if in fact they are doing champion against champion, which it seems like they are. And then on the women's side, Stephanie is the champion. Stephanie Vaquer, for the first time, women's world champion. We know that the WWE Women's Championship is going to be defended on Friday, next Friday, on SmackDown in a triple threat. Tiffany Stratton is defending against Jade Cargill and Nia Jax. I don't see a title change there. We do not need the title back on Nia Jax. And to put the title on Jade Cargill right now, she's not ready for that. That would be very dumb. Tiffany Stratton should still be your WWE champion. So we're looking at Stephanie and Tiffany. Those are the two key matches that appear to be set for Crown Jewel at this point. I don't know why they insist on doing this champion versus champion nonsense. I think it's dumb, but some people enjoy that. But the other big attraction on the show that a lot of people were looking forward to was the mixed tag team match. AJ Lee has not wrestled a proper match in over 10 years. The last time we saw her in the WWE ring was on Raw, the night after WrestleMania 31. That was a long time ago. So not only were we getting AJ Lee back in the ring tonight, AJ and CM Punk. It's only happened a few times before, and it was a long time ago. They were tag team partners against Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. They went out there. They had a fun match. I guarantee you they were all having fun working together. Very long match. Actually, I'm pretty sure the longest match on the entire show. I'm watching the match, and I even made the comment in the chat. I said, did they change this into an Iron Man match? And nobody told me, because they definitely could have shaved a few minutes off from that. I mean, I understand it was one of the matches people were most looking forward to, but still. But I'll tell you what, for somebody who hasn't been in that type of environment in a decade, and it was a tag match, so she didn't have to do all the work by herself, but she put the work in tonight. And again, it was a long match, and I thought AJ Lee on the whole, there was some rustiness there, but she looked good. She looked good, and she got the win, which is exactly the finish I said that I expected and the finish that made sense, because not only did she get the win, but now she has set herself up to be number one contender for the Women's Intercontinental title. And you can continue this feud now, and you can continue this stuff between her and Becky. Becky could get her win back, because she will. So it was the right finish to what I thought on the whole was actually even though, again, I would have shaved a few minutes off of it, but a fun match with the two couples there. But then you have the other attraction on the show. And really the match that this show was built around, certainly in the promo shots and the posters and everything that were going around, this show, for all intents and purposes, was really built around Brock Lesnar against John Cena. John Cena's only got a few matches left. In terms of appearances, I think he's only got 4, maybe 5. And not all of those appearances are going to be matches, so he has even less than that. We have not seen Brock Lesnar in the ring in over 2 years. Last time we saw him in a match was against Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. And we all know why he disappeared. We haven't seen John Cena and Brock Lesnar in the ring together in a very long time. That changed tonight. The more things change, the more they stay the same. They went out there and they had an inferior rehash of the last time that we saw them in the ring together in a one-on-one match 11 years ago. And when they did that at SummerSlam in 2014, it was quite the shocking moment to see John Cena, the WWE champion, or world champion, I think he had both belts, but the top star in the company, go out there in the main event of a SummerSlam, their second biggest show of the year, and get squashed. Like he was fucking Dwayne Gill in the SummerSlam main event. He got destroyed, and Brock Lesnar beat him, and Brock Lesnar won the championship. And you know what? That's what should have been done. Because if you remember, Brock Lesnar did a little something at WrestleMania that year called ending the streak. So if you're going to take somebody and have them end the Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania, you better go all the way with them. So they were all in on Brock back in 2014. And it was such a shocking moment because, again, you will never see a top name kind of give himself up like that and allow himself to just be massacred in the way that John Cena was. So that was 2014. So here we are now in 2025. They're going to run this shit back again. Okay. John Cena's on his retirement tour. Fine. This is the match they want to do. I don't know a single fucking person in the world who was asking or begging for another John Cena Brock Lesnar match. But okay, Brock comes out at SummerSlam. He gives him an F5. We know they're going to wrestle. That was how long ago now? It's the beginning of August, okay? So closing in on 2 months almost, right? Probably 6 weeks. And you saw the build-up to this match, or maybe you didn't, because it didn't exist. If you say you didn't see it, you're not wrong, because it wasn't there. Because the only time we got to see them again together on television was, I think, one time. And Brock, that was after the U.S. title open challenge match with Cena and Sami Zayn a couple weeks ago. And Cena did the exact same thing. He went down to the F5. Then Brock shows up on SmackDown looking for John Cena, even though John Cena said he's not on SmackDown anymore, but I want to find John Cena. So what are we doing? We have comedy between Brock Lesnar and R-Truth. And he splits his pants. And then Brock comes out on television on SmackDown last night, and what does he do? He beats up the announcers. So look at what they have done in the build-up here to this match between him and John Cena. They have had him beat up R-Truth, and they have had him beat up Corey Graves. That was your build-up to this match. And you know what? When you look at the match that we got here at WrestlePalooza tonight, we got the match that we deserved. We got the match that, honestly, in terms of quality, matched the build to the match itself. It kind of matched up perfectly, didn't it? Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's ridiculous. Can you imagine if they would have ended the show with that? Now I know why they opened the show with it. Thank God they opened the show with that. It's ridiculous. I'm going to talk more about that match. And we also now have our first inductee. We already have our first inductee announced into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2026. It's September 20th. WrestleMania actually is going to be even later than it usually is, like this year. It's going to be in late April. We already know that Stephanie McMahon will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, it's just hilarious to me. I talked about all the hype, right, coming into the show. And Triple H has been making the rounds, and he's been doing all the media and ESPN and everything. And one of the things that Triple H talked about that you're going to see tonight on WrestlePalooza, right? Especially all those new fans that are going to be tuned in. Spectacle and surprises. You're going to see spectacle and surprises. The spectacle, I guess, was all the pyro that we got tonight. You know what the only real surprise was on this show? The surprise of the night was Triple H putting his wife in the Hall of Fame. Who knew that that was the one surprise that he was referring to when he talked about all these wonderful surprises that people could expect when they tune into WrestlePalooza? I guess in that regard, he didn't lie. So, and I'm not even saying she doesn't deserve consideration for the Hall of Fame, because she was actually a pretty key figure during the Attitude Era and even into the Ruthless Aggression Era, and she's, I mean, the Authority stuff. She's definitely been an important character on TV. We can get into the merits of her in the Hall of Fame and all that, but it tickled me when I thought back to what Triple H said about surprises, and I said, did we really get any on this show? Oh, I guess it was his wife. I guess that was the only one. Oh my goodness. Let's get into this, shall we? This is your WrestlePalooza review 2025. I assume we're going to get more of these in the future. Mark Shapiro just the other day said that they want to make WrestlePalooza a new main show. They want WrestlePalooza to be on the same level as Rumble, WrestleMania, and SummerSlam. He wants it to be one of the big four shows. Good luck with that. But that's what we're here to talk about, is WrestlePalooza. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Super chats are open. Let me unpause them here. I'll do that periodically. We have a little super chat goal going on in the chat as well, which if we hit that, it will unlock a bonus round of our Be the Booker segment. So we hit that last night on the SmackDown stream. We'll see if we can do that tonight, 2 nights in a row here for WrestlePalooza. And I also want to point out to those of you who may have missed it, if you are a channel member at the Legends tier, I have a brand new lost episode of The Sound Of. And actually, it's not The Sound Of, but a little show I used to do called SE Scoops Live after Raw back in the day. And myself and my good buddy Noah Mark, and we would take live phone calls. Anyway, the second episode of SE Scoops Live has now been uploaded for Legends tier members. So just be aware of that. You can go back and listen to what we were talking about heading into WrestleMania 24. Including that promo right there, a classic promo between Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels right before Ric Flair had what was supposed to be his retirement match Yes. So we thought. So we thought it was going to be Ric Flair's retirement match. Of course, it would not be his retirement match, but that was a great segment. So anyway, go check that out if you missed it. If you are a Legends tier member, you now have access to that. Let's get into the show, shall we? They have a new opening signature to signify the beginning of the ESPN era when the show opens up. Then they open the show here with a video package showing clips from the early days of WWE, clips from the early days when ESPN first launched. I saw Vince McMahon on my screen briefly, young announcer Vince McMahon, and you know what I heard? Because they had the crowd audio was on, and they showed Vince, and the fans popped. So for those of you who doubt that if one day they ever hit No Chance in Hell, and Vince McMahon came walking out in front of a live crowd again, which one day may well happen, you never know. Stranger things have happened, but don't doubt for a second that if that ever happened, you wouldn't have tons of fans in the crowd bowing down. The answer is yes. Yes, they would. So the video ended with a shot of Triple H saying, "Sports is entertainment. Always has been, always will be." Then they cut back to the arena, and they shot off a bunch of pyro, and we had Triple H in the ring. I can't get away from this guy. He's everywhere. He's doing all the interviews. He did Kill Tony the other week. He was on McAfee's show. He was on SportsCenter. He's in the opening video package. Now he's in the fucking ring. He was at Full Sail the other day on NXT. I can't get away from this guy. So now he's magically teleported into the ring. And he said that we are about to see the final form of sports and entertainment. The final form. Let me ask you a question. When this show was over tonight, did you feel like you had seen the final form of professional wrestling? That's pretty disappointing if that's the case. Final form. I was expecting more. He said, if tonight is your first night, let me welcome you to WWE. Let me welcome you to ESPN. Not for me. I'm on Netflix, of course. Let me welcome you to Wrestlepalooza. And guess what we got? We got more pyro. They're sparing no expense here for this ESPN launch. I think we got more pyro tonight than we had on any single WWE show not named WrestleMania all year. Michael Cole and Wade Barrett, they were on the call at ringside after Brock Lesnar murdered Corey Graves on SmackDown last night. Then they cut backstage and they showed a black SUV. Or maybe this was the other surprise that Triple H was referring to. Even though I could have sworn that they had announced some time ago that he would be there. Pat McAfee came out of the SUV. Of course he's going to be there. They're in Indianapolis. Probably just leave his house and walk to the building if he wanted to. So McAfee gets out of the SUV and he's making his way through the backstage area. He's on his way out to the ring. And Triple H, there he is again. This fucking, I swear to God, he's walking through the backstage area and Triple H sneaks up behind McAfee and puts his arm around him like they're best friends. And he's got this big cheesy smile on his face like, it's good to see you. I'm like, this fucking guy can't get away from him. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. He's plastering his face in as many places as he possibly can. He's palling around with McAfee. Hey, yeah. So McAfee makes his way out to the ring, and of course Michael Cole is ecstatic to see him because Michael Cole loves working with Pat McAfee. So we got a 3-man announce team: Cole, McAfee, and Barrett. Although only for part of the show. McAfee actually did not stay for, I think, the last 2 matches. He ducked out for. And they opened the show. Now, we knew this coming in because they had already announced it. But they opened the show with...
Off is the direction you can fuck.
Yeah, it's a very appropriate super chat, actually. Perfect timing on that one. Jeremy Rose, thank you for the $22 off is the direction you can fuck. Yeah, I can say that about this match here. They opened the show with Brock Lesnar against John Cena. And as I said before, this was Brock Lesnar's first match in over 2 years. Lesnar walks out. This man is fucking ginormous. He is as big as I have ever seen him. Going even back to the days when he first broke in and he looked like just a genetic freak. When he showed up and his shoulders were like up here. What was that guy from He-Man? The man at arms or whatever. He's got like no neck. Ridiculous. He's even bigger than that. He really does look like a modern day Viking. Truly. So he comes down first. Then we get John Cena's music. And Cena comes out to the ring, and he comes out with a whole group of kids. I'm like, holy shit, where did they come from? And they're all dressed up like John Cena. So they're wearing the same merch, the same gear that he's wearing. Same color shirt, the hats and everything. It had to be 24 kids, little kids, that come running out with him on stage. And I thought to myself, this is quite the choice here. You got Brock Lesnar standing in the ring. Could probably eat these kids and shit them out. And he's bringing little kids out with him. So, of course, thankfully, he didn't invite them down to the ring because that would have been very bad. So Cena comes down to the ring. And Alicia Taylor did the introduction for John Cena. But before she could do one for Brock Lesnar, we hear, "Ladies and gentlemen." And out from the darkness, from the crowd, emerges Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman is going to do the introduction here for Brock Lesnar. He did a whole introduction, talked about him being an NCAA champion, blah, 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 blah. We know all of his accomplishments. And then he called him the last real ass kicker, since Cena is usually announced as the last real champion. Brock is the last real ass kicker. So I guess we know what Brock meant when he encountered Heyman backstage on SmackDown last night, and he said, "We should talk." Remember that? It was very brief. But evidently he wanted Heyman to, at the very least, just do the introduction for him tonight. Whether or not that relationship extends beyond tonight remains to be seen. It probably does. So he got the classic Heyman intro here. And there's just something that's right about that. You know, if you're going to bring Brock back, as dumb as it is, when you really think about it, right? Just think about it in kayfabe, okay? Paul Heyman betrayed this man. Not once, but twice in his career. And Brock is okay with it. He's a very forgiving person. He's got a soft spot for Paul Heyman. But it just feels right to have them back together. If you got Heyman there and you got Brock there and they're not together, it's kind of weird. You know, they should always be together. And as far as what more they could do with a Lesnar-Heyman alliance, I talked about that last night also on the SmackDown stream and how that could potentially tie into War Games, which I may get into here in a little bit. So here we go, right? They're both in the ring. The bell rings. Lesnar immediately jumps Cena, sends him into the corner. He's giving him some shoulder tackles to the gut. Cena punches his way out of it. Lesnar sends him to the mat with one clothesline after another. Knocks this man down, gets back up, knocks him down again. Cena already has welts. He's like Sheamus, you know, because he doesn't have the same tan that he used to have, you know, and I know he had some skin cancer issues. I think he's the spokesman now for Neutrogena. So that, coupled with the fact that he's almost 50 and he probably just doesn't give a shit anymore. You know, he's a lot more pale than he used to be. So you can see the welts on his body a lot easier. He's got welts on his front. He's got welts on his back. The match barely started, and he already looks like he's been in a fight. And for his part, Brock was already sporting a lovely shade of purple on his face. And we were only 2 minutes into the match. So Lesnar picked him up for a British Bulldog style power slam. Then he threw Cena out of the ring with a suplex. Cena climbed back in. Lesnar locked in the bear hug. The always exciting bear hug. Cena fought out of it. Hoisted him up on his shoulders. Lesnar, though, got free. And he hit another clothesline. Lesnar took Cena back to Suplex City. Gave him some Germans here. Tossed him clear across the ring. Cena got back up. And he hit a series of shoulder tackles. None of which knocked him down. Finally, he hit, it was either the fourth or fifth one, and then Brock finally went down. And then he hit 3 attitude adjustments. And he covered Brock, and Lesnar kicked out at 2. So Cena went for the "you can't see me." Lesnar intercepted, he delivered, an F5. And then he picked him back up and he hit another F5. Then he hit a third F5. We were already in the finisher spam phase of the match. The match was barely 5 minutes old. So now we got up to 4 F5s. He didn't try to pin him, though. Cena staggered to his feet. Lesnar hit a 5th F5. Then he hit a 6th F5. And then he pinned John Cena. Brock Lesnar is your winner. After the match, Lesnar got back in the ring. He hit an F5 to the referee. Then he hit one more F5 on John Cena for good measure. Lesnar took his gloves off like he was going to just beat this man to a pulp, but instead he just took his gloves off and he left the ring and he went to the back. And they showed little kids in the crowd crying, little kids in Cena shirts, crying their little eyes out. Again, Cena is lucky that all those kids that came out with him for his entrance, that they sent them to the back, because I guarantee you, had they made their way down to the ring, if they were like little lumberjacks at ringside, Brock would have dropped them too. That would have been something. So Cena eventually staggered out of the ring and made his way up the ramp into the back, or down the aisle, and to the back as the crowd chanted, "Thank you, Cena," which was at least less awkward than their Extreme Rules match in 2012, when even though Cena won, he took quite the ass kicking from Brock and was bloodied up by Brock. And then instead of selling the beating that he got, if you remember, he cut this weird promo when the match was over and then told everybody, "Get home safe." And then the reports were that Brock blew a gasket backstage because what the fuck are you doing? I remember that. So this was a little less awkward than that. So what did we have here? What did we have here? We had a rehash. We had not just a rehash, but we had an inferior one of what we saw at SummerSlam in 2014. That's what we got here in this match. They basically repeated some version of that, but it wasn't as good. Why you would do that, I don't know, but that's what they chose to do here. Soon, and I'm not even saying Cena losing bothered me. If you remember the predictions I did on the Sound Off last weekend, I picked Brock to win this match. Brock winning was not a surprise to me. Brock winning did not make me upset. I expected it. Although I expected something more competitive than what we got here. The match we got here, though, it really does feel like it's the match we deserved based on the build and the attention that they gave to this match coming into this show. Because they took the laziest possible route to get to this match. Because in their mind, we don't have to do anything beyond the bare minimum, or maybe we only have Brock for a certain number of appearances. And we want to keep these two apart as much as possible. And we're going to sell this match based on the name power, right? Or the star power. So people know John Cena. They know he's on his retirement tour. Brock just came back. He's a big name. We could just get by on that, right? Old time's sake. We're doing John Cena, Brock Lesnar. We'll run a couple of video packages and that'll be good enough, right? We only have to give them what we need to give them. That's really what we got. Not a terribly exciting way to build up to this match. And so then you see the match and it's like, well, you know what? They put about the same amount of effort into this fucking match as they did the build up to it in the first place. So nobody should really be surprised by what we got here. And then we had the lazy ass, finisher spam there at the end. And I know it's a trademark of Brock's matches and frankly Cena's matches too. But you also look back at the matches Cena had just last month and he had some kick-ass matches. So we know Cena can do more than just, the finisher spam formula. But that's not what we got here. So they ended this in the most anticlimactic way possible. The best thing I could say about this match is that they got it out of the way early. Because if you sent this match out there in the main event, whoo boy, that would have been fucking terrible. As it is, I'm not saying this wasn't fucking terrible, but it would have been far more terrible had they actually closed the show with this. So I agree with that decision. But just the other thing I was thinking as I was watching this is just imagine, not that I have a lot of sympathy for these people, but just imagine if you're someone who put down 4 figures, if you drop 4 figures to sit ringside for this show and we're looking forward to seeing this match, or if this match was one of the reasons why you wanted to plunk down that amount of money for these tickets to go see this match on this show, how must you be feeling after this? How would those people be feeling when this match is over? I would love to know. I didn't drop that money, so I mean, I don't give a shit. But I was thinking about that, given the way ticket prices are trending these days. How must those people be feeling? What more is there to say? What more is there to say about this? If they're going to run this back again, if this was match 1 of a longer story that they're going to tell between John Cena and Brock Lesnar, and we don't know that. But if it is, it still doesn't make this match any better. It doesn't. And look, the match they had in 2014, I enjoyed it. It was different. It was shocking. It was different. Brock, again, he was on this tear after ending the streak. This was not that. That's why I said this was an inferior version of what they did, 11 years ago. But this retirement tour, it feels to me, has been very up and down, to say the least. But they wasted so much time on this failed John Cena heel turn that it felt like, okay, they're finally redeeming it a little bit here. Some of the matches he's had recently, even the TV match with Sami Zayn, and trying to get him in the ring with different people, that when I see something like this, it's disappointing and it makes me shake my head, because this man only has maybe 3 matches left. 4 at the most. And then he is done. He's retired. That's it. No more. And this is how you choose to waste one of those spots on this retirement tour to build to what? Another match between Brock Lesnar and John Cena that we can watch and be disappointed in? Now, one thing they may be doing, I mentioned War Games a little while ago. We are getting very close to War Games season at Survivor Series, right? So Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman now have forged this alliance again together. And no, that doesn't mean Brock Lesnar is part of the Vision. Brock Lesnar is not part of the Vision. He will never be part of the Vision. But that doesn't mean that he can't be loosely associated with Heyman in the Vision. You have to imagine that Seth's crew is going to be on the heel side in War Games. So you've got Rollins, you've got Bron Breakker, you've got Bronson Reed. And it would not at all surprise me if, vis-a-vis Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar ends up being in War Games for the first time. What the fuck is that going to look like, by the way? If you put Brock Lesnar in a War Games match, that's still 4. I think they like to do it usually 5-on-5. I'm not sure who that 5th person would be. But it would be very easy to look on the opposite side, on the babyface side, and facing off with Seth and Brock and all of them, John Cena, who also has never been in a War Games match before. Roman Reigns, right, who's going to be seeking revenge on the Vision. CM Punk, who will be feuding with Seth Rollins until they are gray and in a fucking walker in the retirement home. You got Cena, Punk, and Roman could potentially all end up on the same team. You got the Usos. I mean, you could take one name out, plug the Usos in there. I would love it if they can work Jacob Fatu into this. Where the fuck is Jacob Fatu? Somebody had an idea on the stream last night that when I heard it, I said, man, I'm kind of pissed you even said it, because now I'm going to be upset when they don't do it. But the idea was, if Brock beats Cena, or even Cena beats Brock, but then Brock destroys him even after the match, you send Jacob Fatu out there. Not that he has anything to do with Cena, but first of all, he's not doing anything at the moment anyway, but you send him out there to make the save. You send him out there to make the save. So now you're getting him involved in a top angle right now with some top names in the company, and you're establishing now there's a beef between Lesnar and Fatu. That's interesting, right? And it gets him into that mix. And of course, that's not what they did tonight, but I would love for him to maybe even be worked into that in some way, right? So you can come up with any combination of baby faces and heels in a War Games match. Point being, Cena and Lesnar are probably going to end up on opposite sides of the ring at some point, at least one more time. I don't know if we're going to get another singles match between them. I don't know if Brock's going to be his retirement opponent in December, and that's where he gets his win back. I don't have any interest in seeing this again. I didn't have any interest in seeing it tonight. So the idea of running it back again and having an extended program between these two, I mean, how many people are genuinely excited about that? I'm sure there are some. But with the limited number of matches he has left, I would love to see him work with other people. Even if it's people that he's never worked with before, whether like a Gunther or someone, right? Believe me, I'd love to see Cena and AJ Styles at it one more time, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But if the idea is this is just the first and we're going to run it back again, why? Who's asking for this? That's not an excuse for what we saw on this show. What we saw on this show sucked. Plain and simple. Call it like it is. There's no need to sugarcoat it. Who's asking for this? Up next, we had the Vision. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed taking on the newly reunited Usos. Before we get to that, though, I must tell you that right around this point, I got a text message from one of my sources at the airport there in Toronto that Brock Lesnar had already boarded his flight home, and he was on his way back to Saskatchewan. So as soon as that match was over, and he didn't even hit the showers, he got his fucking Uber to the airport, and he was already on his way back home. So I just wanted to give you that update. It's like when Shawn Michaels first went heel, and then in the middle of the show, Bobby Heenan would go, wait, I'm getting an announcement here. Shawn Michaels has left the building. Yes, Brock Lesnar has left the building. So we were already 45 minutes into this show. I want to point this out to you. 45 minutes into this show, and we barely had a match, if you could call it that. I mean, it went 7 or 8 minutes, I guess, but barely a match. 45 minutes into this show, and I posted this on Twitter, not to hate or even joke, like genuinely. They were talking about, Triple H said it at the beginning of the show. If you're new here, if you've never been with us before, if you've never seen a WWE PLE before, I'm genuinely curious if there was an ESPN subscriber, viewer tuning in for the first time, or maybe it's their first time watching WWE in 30 years, right? What must they be thinking at this point? Because it was 7:47, I think, and the Usos were still in the crowd, yeeting and doing their entrance and shit. And I'm like, if you're watching this wrestling show, are you sitting there thinking, like, where's the wrestling? Like, we barely had a match to open the show. All this time has gone by, and the Usos are still making their entrance. It's almost 8 o'clock. As a new viewer, I would love to know what was going through their minds. Now, on the pre-show, Adam Pearce announced that LA Knight was going to be the special guest referee for this match. So I'm sure there won't be any controversy whatsoever coming out of this match. Bron Breakker isolated Jimmy in the corner. He laid in some shoulders before throwing him out of the ring. Breakker distracted the referee. Bronson Reed went for a chair. Knight spotted him, though, and told him to stop, don't use it, I guess, or you'll be disqualified. So then Jimmy picked up the chair, and Knight turned away and allowed Jimmy to use the chair as a weapon outside. Good job, Adam Pearce. So that brought Breakker to the outside. Jay hit a splash from the top rope onto all the heels outside. Later on, also on the floor, Reed tried the chair thing again. This time he hit Jimmy in full view of LA Knight, but for some reason, LA Knight allowed it and didn't do anything. So Reed tossed the chair and Jimmy back in the ring. Uso was clutching his left knee. Reed set up the chair in the ring, and after a back and forth, Jimmy went for the hot tag. Reed, though, got one first, and Breakker stormed across the ring to take out both Usos. Reed got Jimmy up on his shoulders, and Breakker did the top rope Steiner Brothers Bulldog. Breakker went for a pin. He argued with LA Knight after for only counting 2. Reed tagged in. He went for a senton. Jimmy rolled away. And when no one was looking, Jimmy set up the chair in between the ropes. And he lured Bronson Reed into it face first. So at this point, Jey Uso, he reappeared on the apron. Yeah, let me stop there. So T85 in the chat mentioned this. I saw a lot of people complaining about the commercials during the PLE. Now, again, I was watching the show on the Netflix feed using my VPN. So I don't think I saw the same commercials that you guys did if you were watching it through ESPN. What happened on my end was, I mean, there were some like WWE related ads, if you can call them that. But I got the same thing, the same screen that I get when I watch on Netflix if I watch like SmackDown. And if you have watched it, you know what I'm talking about. Or it goes to this screen with these rotating like images of the wrestlers, and you have that instrumental theme. It's like do, 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 do. I got the same thing here. So I didn't see any of that stuff. But people were complaining very loudly about the fact that they were just full-blown commercials in between, not during the matches themselves, like WrestlePalooza rolls on, but it was like in between the matches, and they were just hit by like the commercials you would see on TV. I could see where that would be annoying. Welcome to the ESPN era. What did you expect? You really can't be surprised by that. But I'm telling you. Yeah, could always use the VPN and Netflix next time. Worked out well for me tonight. So anyway, he hit a crossbody on Breaker. Only got a 2 count. Talking about Jay. Jimmy pulled the table out from under the ring. He slid it into his brother. They set it up in the middle of the ring. Breaker and Reed, though, took them both out. So Reed ends up setting the table up in the corner. Jay staggered up. Breaker went for a spear. Jay caught him with a super kick, though, and Jimmy hit one on Reed. And after some brawling, the Usos landed the 1D on Bron Breaker. Reed, though, broke up the pin attempt. Bronson then attempted a moonsault. Got nothing, though. Breaker managed to regain control with a spear on Jimmy, but Jay speared him immediately after. He landed an Uso splash on Breaker for a close near fall. And then he's, going back and forth arguing with LA Knight about the count. In frustration. Jay delivered a super kick to Reed, and then Knight rolled to ringside. He's arguing now, LA Knight is, with Bronson Reed out on the floor. As this is going on, here comes Jey Uso for a suicide dive. That looks like I could see where LA Knight might believe that the suicide dive was aimed at him, but he hits Reed instead. Knight was not happy about this. Things got chaotic. Paul Heyman tossed a chair into the ring. Jay nearly hit LA Knight with it. He came running in. He was going to hit, it might have been Reed, whatever member of the Vision. And they moved, and he pulled up short. So he didn't hit LA Knight with it, but he came very close. And LA Knight got the big bug eyes. He's looking at Jey Uso. Again, LA Knight is not happy about what just almost happened here. So at that point, he did hit Breaker in the back with a chair. And after that, he also chucked the chair after that at Bronson Reed, who was standing on the apron. But I didn't see the exact moment that it happened, but Jey Uso came up bleeding very badly. And I think what happened is, I'm almost positive, what happened is, I don't know if it was the lip of the chair, the jagged edge of the chair. I think the chair ricocheted back up and hit him in the head. Forehead, ear, whatever it was, it had to be the head. And immediately he was bleeding. There was blood all over the mat. There was blood all over Bron Breaker's back. It wasn't even his blood. So Jay got busted open hard way here. So we had blood on both pay-per-views tonight. So at that point, Breaker ended up spearing Jimmy and Jay through that table that was leaned up in the corner. Reed then finished off Jay with a tsunami splash and covered him for the win. I thought this was a quality match. It turned into a no-holds-barred match. We had chairs, we had tables. I mean, literally, the table's in the ring, and it's set up the Slim Jim table. It's like stacked up in the corner, and I'm like, okay, I guess we have an Extreme Rules match now. Nobody bothered to announce it as one, but I guess now we have an Extreme Rules match. LA Knight did not play any real role in the finish like I thought he would. You had those moments, which was the whole point of him being in the match in the first place. Those little moments of frustration with him and Jay. And it made you think that he was going to just drop him with not a BLT. He was going to drop him with a BFT, but he didn't. Again, at the end of the match, he counted the fall fairly. He was like stone cold in the 6-pack challenge back at Unforgiven in 99. I just watched that again not too long ago. And Austin counted the fall for Triple H. And Triple H won the belt back, and then he gave him a stunner. But there was no BFT even after the match. There was no BFT. LA Knight just counted the fall. Bronson Reed wanted him to raise his hand. LA Knight's like, fuck off. And he just left. But the whole point of him being in there, we'll find out on Raw Monday night. I'm sure that Jey Uso is not happy with him. And I don't know ultimately where this is going to lead, but it was to further the tension between the two of them, even though he didn't factor directly into the finish of the match. Breaker and Reed, they had to win this. They had to win this. They lost at SummerSlam. They could not lose again here. And I figured Seth and Becky were losing later in the show, so at least them winning here gives the Vision a win on the show. At least they go 1 for 2. So that's pretty much what I expected to happen here anyway. And if they are building to their involvement in the War Games match, the heels should be winning. The heels should be winning here so that the baby faces can get their revenge and get their big win in War Games. So it just makes sense. Now after this, it was time to crown a new Women's World Champion. This is what I was looking forward to here, was this match. Stephanie Vaquer won a Battle Royal at Evolution back on July 13th. She won a Battle Royal and then proceeded to not wrestle a single match the entire month of August. It is now mid-September. She's been waiting quite some time. Io Sky was supposed to get a championship match against Naomi on Raw. And then Naomi announced that she was with child and she was vacating the championship. So you have two women who were both owed shots at the title. It only made sense to put them together one-on-one, right? Very simple. So we were guaranteed to have a new women's world champion crowned either Io Sky or Stephanie Vaquer. The crowd was quiet for the early part of this match. They did get more invested as the match went along. The two of them did some chain wrestling at the beginning to start. Io hit a basement dropkick and then applied an ankle lock to silence from the crowd. Both women ended up in the corner and Vaquer applied an armbar over the top rope. Vaquer applied another submission. Io was able to reverse the leverage. She followed up with a double underhook backbreaker. Both women were down. Io fired up. She delivered a missile drop kick from the top. And then she fired up, hit a suicide dive out onto Stephanie on the floor. Io attempted a sunset flip powerbomb. She was going to powerbomb Stephanie from the apron to the floor. Stephanie stopped it and delivered a double knee drop instead. Vaquer hit a springboard splash out to the floor. Then there was another springboard crossbody into the ring. Io was able to avoid a running attack in the corner. She hit a German suplex. Stephanie replied with a German of her own. She set up for the Devil's Kiss, right? Everyone's favorite move. Io, though, escaped and hit a double stomp. She applied a crossface. Stephanie was forced to claw her way to the ropes, which she did. She replied with a dragon screw leg whip in the ropes. Then she attempted her SVB finish. Io was able to avoid it. Io went for her over the moonsault finish. Vaquer got her feet up, though. And Stephanie followed that with another gnarly-looking dragon screw. And then finally got the Devil's Kiss to everyone's delight. She delivered an SVB. She covered, only got 2. So Vaquer went to the top rope. Io rolled to the ropes to avoid the attack. She then delivered a shote, right, the palm strike. Climbed up to meet Stephanie on the turnbuckles. Io delivered a top rope Spanish fly all the way down to the mat. Could not make a quick cover, though, because she had pain in her knee. She was selling the knee that Stephanie had been working over. Remember I mentioned the dragon screw leg whip in the ropes? She was working over that knee. So, of course, having just told you that, what does Io go ahead and do? Io goes with her bad knee, and she delivers a double knee attack in the corner, and then follows that up with another running knee. Okay. So she went for another moonsault. Stephanie avoided it. Io had, earlier in the match, she had rolled down her knee pads. So upon landing, she went knees first into the mat. So she took even more damage to the knees. She's clutching the knee. Stephanie climbs up to the top. She hits a picture-perfect spiral tap. I was not expecting this. She hit a picture-perfect spiral tap. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm thinking back to the theater at Madison Square Garden, NXT, earlier this year, that champion versus champion title for title match, Stephanie and Julia. If I remember, did Stephanie not do a spiral tap in that match? And I think they did that great spot where Julia caught her in, might have been like a triangle. So I think I've seen her do it before. But she doesn't do it in every match. And the way she nailed it, it was just picture perfect. And the best part, she won with it. When you hit a big move like that and you nail it, and she hit that so smooth, you got to win with it. And she did. She hooked the leg. She got the 3 count. And Stephanie Vaquer, for the first time, is the Women's World Champion. And she was very emotional. She had tears in her eyes. She's looking down at the title as the referee handed it to her. Yes, okay, so yes, Julia caught her. That's why I remember that spot. But I think when she came off the top, I'm pretty sure that it was a spiral tap that she did. Yeah, but Julia caught her. I mean, that whole sequence with them in that match was just fantastic. And I don't really want to talk about that anymore because the more I talk about it, the more depressed I get when I think about Julia. But when the match was over here, the two women, they bowed to each other. They were on their knees and hugging, and Io handed the title to Stephanie. Stephanie celebrated on the ropes. She got a pyro celebration, more pyro. Then she went to ringside, and they mentioned that her father was there. Her father had flown in from Chile to watch Stephanie perform tonight. He was in the front row, right behind the announcers, and she went over and she hugged him, and she gave him the belt so he could hold the belt up, even though he had it upside down, so it looked like he had the Miz's belt, but that's okay. It was a great moment, and you could tell how much it meant to her. You know, even when they just handed the championship to her, and she was all, emotional because, she's worked hard for this moment. And it's been a lot in a very quick period of time for her. But obviously, for her, it just kind of hit her all at once in the ring. They had a hell of a match. It started slow. The crowd, again, was pretty quiet for this early on, or quieter than you would think. But then it picked up as the match picked up. I can't say that I rank it higher than the match that Io had with Rhea Ripley at Evolution, which did not have a clean finish. That one had the Money in the Bank cash in, but that match was just fucking fantastic. But this was an excellent match too. It was an excellent match that lived up to expectations, my expectations anyway. And I'll just say this. I already thought, coming into this that Io Sky was the best female performer of the year, like the female wrestler of the year for me in 2025 so far. All this match did was just add to that already very impressive resume that she has put together. And I think back to, I think obviously WrestleMania.
Look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me. Hey, I just want you to know, I think you rock.
Hey, Corbin is with us.
I don't mean The Rock, A-Rock, you rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
Holy shit.
We got a red bomb, everybody. Corbin Rogers chiming in with a $100 super chat drop. First time here in a while, he says. First time in a while super chatting. Yeah, it's been too long. It's good to hear from you, Corbin. Been here since the beginning. So I don't donate much, but I listen to every show. Keep up the great work. Cheers to Solo and all the fine women out there. See, he used his shout out wisely. Shouting out not only me, but all the fine women out there. We had 2 fine women here in this match that we just got done talking about. But as the warplanes are flying, I don't know if you could hear that, but the warplanes are apparently flying over this fucking house right now at almost 12 o'clock at night. They must be looking for Raja Jackson. He's out on bond, if you haven't heard. Anyway, Corbin, thank you, brother. Thank you for the bomb. The big bomb. What I was saying, though, is like with Io, you think back to that great triple threat match at WrestleMania. And it wasn't just Io, it was Rhea, it was Bianca. Great triple threat match with them. Even the TV match that she and Rhea had in the lead up to WrestleMania where she won the title. The match with Rhea at Evolution. They had the triple threat match with Naomi at SummerSlam, which was not on the level of the WrestleMania match, but still also a very good match. This match here with Stephanie. Io, for years, has been on another level from everybody else, but she's really been getting her flowers this year. and she's super over with the fans, and it's just really cool to see. Because she's probably been, I mean, she's been one of the best in the world for years now. But it just feels like now she's getting her flowers and recognition more widely in a way that she wasn't in all the years that she was in NXT and WWE prior to this. So all this did was just add to that resume. You know, she is the female wrestler of the year in 2025. Certainly for me. So she's fantastic. And so is Stephanie. And I cannot fault them for putting the title on Stephanie. I would not have. I think it's premature. I would have taken some more time because she was absent from television for so long, practically the entire month of August, even into September. And part of it was that Naomi got pregnant, and that kind of upended the plans that they had and whatever else was going on. It was like she was gone, and now, oh yeah, that's right, she's owed a title match, and then boom, she's the champion. So I would have waited a little bit, but Stephanie is so good. And she's popular, and I can't fault them, you know. And it was a great moment seeing her out there celebrating with the championship, so I can't hate on that. Now, the other thing to also point out here is that Asuka is in this story with Io, where she has been very upset whenever somebody gets friendly with Io, whether it's Rhea or Nikki Bella, whoever it may be. And she wanted to be here. She said, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in your corner for this match. And it was Io on Monday who told her, I don't want you out there. I need to do this on my own. And Asuka reluctantly said, okay, fine. You don't want me there. I won't be there. There was no Asuka tonight. But now that Io lost, you have to imagine that Asuka is not going to be very happy about that. And that's only going to exacerbate the problems between them. So we look ahead now to Crown Jewel. And if it's champion against champion, then we're looking at Stephanie against Tiffany. Because again, I don't think Tiffany is losing on Friday. What does that mean for Io and Asuka and Rhea? I think we are probably looking at Rhea and Io against Asuka and Kairi. Probably a crown jewel. But if Rhea is going to be next in line for a shot of the women's championship, then I think you do that match on that Raw following Crown Jewel, because that Raw, the Monday after Crown Jewel, is also in Perth. So if Rhea can't get her title match in Perth on the 11th, I think there's a very good chance she gets it on the 13th, and we get Stephanie and Rhea on that Raw show. So I think that's what we're looking at here. I just cannot imagine they go all the way down to Perth and we don't have Rhea Ripley challenging. Whether she wins or not, I don't know, but at least challenging for the women's championship. So I think that's where we're headed for that next show. Now, at this point, Pat McAfee stepped away. I guess he had better things to do. So Pat McAfee was done for the night, which I was fine with. And the next match was the other big attraction. We already had the big attraction in the opening match. Oh, what an attraction that turned out to be. So this was the other big attraction, the mixed tag team match. CM Punk and AJ Lee. AJ's first match back in over 10 years, taking on Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. And the announcers pointed out that Rollins and Becky were 3-0 in tag matches together. They were undefeated. But so too are Punk and AJ Lee. And I actually have no memory of them having any sort of record as tag team partners. But evidently they were 2-0 coming into this show. So something had to give. Somebody was going to win and somebody was going to lose for the first time. So we got the Rollins family making their entrance first. They had this giant platform that was elevated a good 30 or 40 feet up in the air. And they're both standing on top of this platform, and it slowly lowers down as they're playing Seth's music. Once they landed, it transitioned into, because I think they got pyro too, but then it transitioned into Becky's music. They were both wearing matching purple suits. Punk came out. He was wearing a jacket that said AJ's husband. AJ Lee came out. Obviously, she got the big ovation that you would expect. So AJ wanted to start the match. Becky just waved her off, and so we were going to get Punk and Rollins starting out. Then Becky decided she wanted in. So she gets in with Punk. And she starts to shove Punk and push him around a little bit. So the crowd chanted for GTS. They wanted CM Punk to deliver a GTS to this woman. Instead, they got AJ, who tagged in, and the match finally started. And Becky bailed from the ring right away. AJ chased her until she popped back in and tagged Rollins. Rollins and Becky, they started making out on the floor outside, so Punk hit them both with a suicide dive. He threw Rollins into the barricade, fought him into the crowd. Rollins ran back to the ring. Becky reached over the ropes and choked Punk behind the referee's back. Punk then returned the favor, and he drove Rollins into his corner for AJ to mess with him out of the sight of the referee. Punk and Rollins went at it for a little bit until Punk bounced off the ropes and caught a kick from Becky. Rollins stomped him until he rolled out of the ring, where Becky sent him into the ring steps. AJ ran around to help, but Rollins got in her way. Rollins worked over Punk as he desperately tried to reach for his wife. Rollins, though, would not allow that to happen. So this happened several times. Punk would try, and he would try to get to AJ, and Rollins would just foil his attempt. So when he finally did get the tag to AJ and everybody popped, the referee didn't see it, so it didn't count. Referee can't call what he doesn't see. So as soon as AJ got into the ring, referee Jessica Carr, she grabs AJ and drags her back to the corner and sends her back out to the apron. So this allowed Rollins and Becky to double team Punk. And then they did a spot here where Rollins gorilla pressed his wife over his head. Now, maybe they do this at home for fun. I don't know. But he gorilla pressed her overhead, and he was going to slam her down on top of Punk. Punk rolled out of the way, though, and so instead Becky splatted on the mat. Rollins charged Punk, who sent him outside. And just before he could get the tag to AJ, Becky had run around, and she yanked AJ off the apron. In the ring, Rollins hit a Falcon Arrow. Punk, though, kicked at it too. Rollins skipped around the ring. Now he's skipping around. He's mocking AJ Lee. He rolled out of the ring. AJ was still laying on the floor outside. He starts skipping around AJ's body. He gets back into the ring. He skips back into the ring. And as he gets back into the ring skipping, CM Punk hoists him up onto his shoulders, and he delivers a GTS. Rollins is out. He's draped over the middle rope. He is unconscious. Becky is outside the ring looking up, trying to wake him up and starts smacking him around. She's trying to, revive him. Punk went to go tag his wife. Becky tried to prevent it. Punk blew her a kiss, though, because he stopped her. And then he blew her a kiss, and he made the tag anyway. So now here comes AJ Lee. She comes in with a Thez press, and she's raining blows down upon Becky. She throws Becky into the corner. She starts stomping her. She delivers a splash in the corner. She climbs the turnbuckle. She does the 10 punches before laying Becky out with a spin kick. AJ goes up top for a crossbody, only gets a 2 count. Rollins rolls back in, and he pulls AJ off of his wife. So AJ turns around, and what does she do? She smacks him in the face. And then hits a DDT on Becky, and she actually used Rollins as sort of a springboard to hit the DDT. Rollins grabbed her. Punk arrived, though, and they did this spot where Punk, I think she had a hold of Rollins, but he propelled his wife up and over for a sliced bread. When she landed on top of AJ, only for a near fall. So Becky and Seth, they were dazed in each corner. AJ and Punk, they hit dueling bulldogs and then dueling shining wizards. AJ tried for a Black Widow submission. Becky threw her off. AJ tried it again. She managed to lock it on, sort of. Rollins tried to save his wife. Punk, though, grabbed him and locked him in a sharpshooter. Rollins kicked his way out of it. AJ applied a Black Widow on Seth. That would have been something. That would have gone over real well if you have the World Heavyweight Champion here submitting to 95-pound AJ Lee. I don't think that would have gone over very well. I also don't think it would have been legal in this match. So after that, Becky and Seth hit stereo pedigrees on Punk and AJ. Rollins and Becky, they made motions like they were going to go hit dueling go-to-sleeps. But Punk sent Rollins outside. AJ took advantage. She hit Becky with her own Beck-sploder suplex. Rollins reached in, grabbed her ankle, and tripped AJ up in the ring. Then crawled back inside, but Punk flew in with a curb stomp on Rollins. Becky began hitting Punk. Punk caught her foot when she went for a kick, took her down, and was trying to put her in a sharpshooter. So instead, Becky ends up getting one on Punk. So Punk is writhing around on the mat, locked in this sharpshooter by Becky Lynch, I guess unable to power his way out of it. And then he ended up reversing into a sharpshooter of his own. So he did very briefly get a sharpshooter applied on Becky before Rollins broke it up. And then he gave him a pedigree and he gave Punk a curb stomp. Rollins went for the pin. AJ broke it up with a stomp to Seth. Becky then grabbed AJ, hit a manhandle slam, and AJ barely kicked out before 3. They got me there for a second. I thought that might be the finish. What a mistake that would have been. So Rollins and Punk had to pull their wives off of each other. Becky and AJ then pulled Rollins and Punk apart. They started to brawl with each other. AJ backed Punk into the corner and said, I got this. So then the women start going at it. Then everybody's brawling. Punk and AJ sent Rollins and Becky out of the ring. Punk sent Rollins over the announce desk. And AJ goes over by the Spanish announce table, removes the lid. She removes the monitors from the desk. And they each grab the heels and they put them on their respective table. So Rollins and Lynch, they end up reversing things. And Becky ends up sending AJ off one table into Punk and Rollins, who are on the other table. And in sending her into them, they do this bump. The table collapses and all of them fall to the floor. And Punk immediately rolls over and, goes over to his wife to check on her and make sure, that she's okay. Becky grabs AJ, throws her back into the ring. AJ went for a manhandle slam, or Becky did rather. But AJ locked on the Black Widow. And this time she's got it locked on again, kind of. And Becky has nowhere to go, and Becky taps out to AJ Lee. So Punk is outside the ring. And they ring the bell, and they play the music, and they announce that, Punk and AJ have won this match, and Punk can't help but smile. So he flashes a smile on the outside. He also did the Reggie Miller choke sign. You all know if you're a sports fan anyway, you know what I'm talking about, right? The Reggie Miller choke sign, which they were in Indianapolis. So obviously it was an homage to him being in Indy. But I would like to think that he was just paying homage to one Jack Perry, who made his return tonight at All Out. I choose to believe that. It was his little tribute to Jungle Boy. So the match, let's talk about this match. The match felt like it lasted 5 business days. Again, I even asked in the chat as we were approaching the finish. I didn't know it was the finish yet, but I'm like, did they change this to an Iron Man match and I just didn't know about it? The match went 30 minutes. It was a 30-minute match. It did not need to be 30 minutes. You could have definitely shaved some time off of this there because there were parts of it, even though the fans, they came up for all the big parts. They came up for all the big climactic moments like you would want them to, but they were quiet also for a good chunk of the match. And honestly, it was kind of dull until AJ finally tagged in. And that's when things really started to pick up. So it definitely was it was the longest match on the show, and it felt it. At least to me anyway, it did. So it dragged in certain parts. But again, to their credit, they got the crowd into all the key moments that you would want to get them into. It turned into a really fun match. It was just a classic mixed tag team match where AJ was obviously the key star here. She hasn't wrestled in a very long time. So what do? You keep her out on the apron as long as you can, and you build. You build to that hot tag. You make people want it so bad they can taste it. And that's what they did here, because that's just wrestling 101, right? You don't need to be in backstage to know that. Just be a fucking fan. It's wrestling 101. You build to that moment. You want people you just want them begging for that tag to AJ. And once she got it, they exploded. And then she went to town, right? So just classic pro wrestling here. AJ looked a little rusty in spots, especially when she was throwing strikes. Not that she was known as a big striker back in her day. That wasn't exactly her forte, but Outside of that, though, I thought she looked good, especially for someone who hasn't had a proper match, and this was a long match, in 10 years. And she was in there, and she was doing some big spots and taking some big bumps, and all in all, I think she looked pretty damn good, and it was the right finish. It was exactly the finish I would have done, because now it sets up AJ as the #1 contender. It sets her up as a challenger for the Intercontinental Championship. You could do that match at Crown Jewel. And that's where Becky could get her win back. Because AJ got the win here. First match back, right? You got to give her the win and establish her. But in the next match, she shouldn't win the title. If you're going to have an Intercontinental title match, Becky needs to win. You drag things out a little bit more. It's going to be a big deal when AJ eventually wins gold for the first time in 10 years. You know, whether it's the Intercontinental or the Women's World title, she's going to have gold around her waist again at some point. Build to it. You know, they chose not to do that with Stephanie. But with AJ, take your time and build to it. It's what they're doing with Punk. Punk's been back now for, it's going to be 2 years in November. He came back as Survivor Series 2 years ago. He has yet to hold gold for any significant period of time. I don't even count what happened at SummerSlam because he got cashed in on. He was the champion for what, 5 minutes? He's still waiting for that big championship run ever since he came back. Good. Let him wait for it. There's no need to rush into it. I'm not even sure he needs it, to be honest with you, but it's only a matter of time before AJ is holding gold again. Rollins, meanwhile, it looks like he's going to go off to wrestle the WWE champion, Cody Rhodes, which is interesting because obviously there's history there. Cody is the one guy Seth has never been able to beat. And it looks like that's going to be the main event probably at Crown Jewel. So let's assume that's the match. He gets away from Punk for October. Then you go into Survivor Series in November with War Games. I could see them on opposite sides of a War Games match. But it'll be a while before we get them back in the ring one-on-one. In fact, I think that's... Right now, as I sit here, that looks like the WrestleMania match. It looks like if Punk is going to win the belt and have a proper run, he's going to win it off of Seth, and it would likely be in Vegas next year. So you kind of have to get away from this for a while. Punk and Seth at this point is not interesting enough to keep it hot from now until the end of April. You can't do that. So you're going to have to cool it down or get away from it for a while, then revisit it if that's the idea. But I could definitely see them on opposite sides of a War Games match in November for sure. Now, before the main event, we got one match left. For the main event, we were greeted by the Undertaker's dong, which sounds very wrong. The Undertaker's gong. How about we say that? Okay, that sounds less horrible. So we hear the Undertaker. You imagine somebody tuning into the stream. We were greeted by the Undertaker's dong. Really? What kind of pay-per-view were you watching here? This is the way they kicked off the ESPN era? We hear the gong, lights go out, and then we hear Kid Rock. And out he rides on his motorcycle to American Badass. And he rides down to the ring, and he parks his bike at ringside right in front of Stephanie McMahon, who was standing in the front row and clapping. Undertaker gets off of his motorcycle, and he's got a microphone in his hand, and he asks her if he can take a seat next to her in the crowd. And he climbs over the barricade. I'm like, don't hurt yourself now. Climbs over the barricade, and he sits down next to Stephanie. Just two podcast hosts shooting the shit here in the crowd. And Undertaker says, you know, I saw you last week in Vegas at the fight, right? The Canelo Alvarez fight. And now here you are. Are you following me? And he said, you know, I never get to do this, but I got to ask the question, are you ready? And he said, no, are you ready? Are you ready, he says, to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame class in 2026? And Stephanie is clearly shocked and did not have any prior knowledge that this was coming. And she started to tear up, but she was trying not to cry. And then, of course, she hugs The Undertaker, and she's just blown away by this news. And I thought this was all very nice of the man who once kidnapped and crucified this woman, or attempted to crucify this woman, that they could get along in such a chummy way here and let the past be the past and bygones be bygones. How very nice of them. So yes, we have our first inductee into the class of 2026, and it will be Stephanie McMahon. And I did, before I went live, I did see that Triple H posted like a little minute-long clip from the gorilla position when Stephanie came back there of, you know, her reaction and their hugging and all that stuff. And so look, Stephanie McMahon in the Hall of Fame, how can you argue it? Now, there are people who get upset when people like Stephanie go in, or someone who's, you know, even newer, before other people who have yet to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. But that's just the way it goes. You know, you're at the whims of, used to be Vince McMahon, now it's Triple H and whoever else makes these decisions, and they make their decisions based on who they think is going to be the biggest draw for the Hall of Fame, because they have tickets to sell. That's really what they base it on more than anything else. So I, you know, stopped caring about that a long time ago, because that's just the way that they operate with this. It's not operated like a real Hall of Fame where people are voted or anything like that. But Stephanie was going to go in at some point. Stephanie, as far as her character in the history of WWE, you know, she came up as a character in the Attitude Era, which just so happened to be the hottest period, the hottest era in the history of wrestling, and the hottest period in the history of WWE. I don't give a shit how much money they're making now. They're making more money now than they did back then. The product is not nearly as hot as it was then. There's a difference between making money and all of that, right? And business is doing really well, and just your feel of the product itself. Creatively, when you watch the television shows, this is absolutely not their hottest period. But she was a vital part of the show as a babyface, as a heel. I guess technically she's a former women's champion, right? She did win the women's title at one point. So whatever. I mean, Stephanie going into the Hall of Fame is fine. Shane one day will go into the Hall of Fame. There's another McMahon that will likely go into the Hall of Fame one day. May not be until after he's no longer with us. Although based on the reaction he got when they showed him in the video package earlier tonight, who knows? He may go in next year too. But anyway, this was a little interlude here between the tag match and the main event. And then they closed with the WWE Championship match, with Cody Rhodes defending the title against Drew McIntyre. Cody landed a Cody cutter early on, but he came up, he was very sluggish, and he was selling like he was dizzy or, you know, about to pass out. And I thought that would play into the match more, or even play into the finish, but it really didn't. And the announcers made it a point to mention that, you know, Cody could still be feeling the effects of the injury that kept him out for 5 weeks when McIntyre gave him that Claymore kick into the side of the announce desk. So again, I just thought it would play a larger role, you know, in the match, but really didn't. So Cody sent McIntyre to the floor, and he dove on him with a suicide dive. He went for a second one. Drew, though, caught him and slammed him into the ring post. Then he slung him over the Spanish announce desk. Cody brought himself some space by moving out of the way of a charging McIntyre, who went shoulder first into the ring post. Didn't last long, though. McIntyre managed to deliver an inverted Alabama slam onto the ring steps. So later on in the match, both men, they're battling in the corner. Cody hits a superplex. So they're trading strikes after that. Cody ends with a power slam, and he follows up with a Cody cutter, and he's firing up the crowd. He sets up for a crossroads. McIntyre, though, delivers a knee to the skull. They battle back onto the ropes, and McIntyre delivers Sheamus's white noise off the turnbuckles. Then he sets up for a Claymore. Cody, though, reverses into a terrible powerbomb for a 2 count. So basically, McIntyre came flying in for a Claymore, and Cody just sort of caught him and dropped him, but it just didn't look great. Only got a near fall. Rhodes then applied a figure 4. McIntyre was struggling to escape. Escape he did, though. And then he threw Cody into the corner, but the referee was in the way. And this right here is going to be the key story coming out of this match. Because he goes to throw him into the corner. The referee is in the line of fire. And so the only thing the referee can do here is to bail out of the ring and get the fuck out of the way. So that's what he does. And Drew, coming out of that spot, gets the roll up. But the referee is out of position. He's not even in the ring. So there's a delay before the referee can get back into the ring and count the fall. So he was late to make the count, and Cody kicked out. Cody then shoved McIntyre into the corner. He landed at Crossroads, only got a near fall. McIntyre threw Cody to the floor, and then he hit a running flip dive out over the top onto him. He kind of got Cody, but I think the majority of the impact that he took to his tailbone was on the floor, so I'm sure that didn't feel too good. He followed with a Claymore kick in the ring, only got 2. McIntyre was frustrated. He rolls Cody to the floor. He set Cody up for another Claymore into the side of the announce that Cody was in perfect position. The same move that he put Cody on the shelf for, or the same move that sent Cody on a work vacation to go film Street Fighter for 5 weeks. He was in perfect position for it. And so what does the referee do? The referee jumps out of the ring and he gets in his way and he tries to stop him from doing it, even though there was nothing illegal about it. We see people do shit all the time on the announce desk outside. But this is so horrendous that the referee simply cannot allow Drew to do this. So he prevents him from doing so. But McIntyre goes for a Claymore anyway. But that little delay gave Cody a chance to move out of the way. So Cody puts his foot through the side of the announce desk. And he sells it like he broke his foot. He's clutching the leg and he's in great pain. He actually fell down when he attempted another Claymore in the ring. Like he came out of the corner and he just couldn't support his own weight and he fell to the mat. Cody then delivered a Cody cutter and a Crossroads, and he got 3 to retain the title. Trainers tended to McIntyre on the floor outside, and I'm sitting here going, wow, okay, well, let's see what's about to go down here at Wrestlepalooza. The surprises are in store, right? Let's see what they got. They got nothing. Cody won. He celebrated, and that was it. That was the end of Wrestlepalooza. I sat here waiting for something to happen, and the fact that nothing happened, honestly, that may have been the biggest surprise of all. Because when I heard what the lineup was, like the match order as far as when the key matches were going to be taking place, I thought for sure that the reason they moved it around was because they had something big planned. And if it wasn't going to be a title change, that there would be some sort of angle and, maybe that would lead into the next show or something. And they had nothing special planned whatsoever. Now, the match itself, it was a good match. It was not great. It was a good match. I've seen both men have better matches this year even. They told the story, though, of McIntyre having a legitimate gripe, which I'm sure they're going to play up on television this week, when the referee jumped out of the ring, that he may have had the championship. Well, of course he didn't, but in his mind, he very well may have had the championship won, but because of that, it may have cost him the title, and therefore he deserves a rematch. Well, if the rematch is not happening in Perth, that sounds like it will probably be a TV match at some point. They might even do that match on TV in advance of Crown Jewel with the idea that, for Cody to get the match with Seth on that show, he's got to keep the title. But to me, there's no drama there because I don't know that anybody would honestly believe that they would do Seth and Drew on that show. So if there's going to be a rematch for Drew, it actually might work out better if they save it for after Crown Jewel. So I don't know what they're going to do as far as that goes. It's part of the reason why I kind of wish they weren't doing this champion against champion nonsense. But McIntyre, man, he continues to be, I didn't honestly think he was winning the title here, but he continues to be the guy who comes close, but fails to win the big one. And the only time that he did win the big, and when I say the big one, I'm talking, the WWE Championship. The only time he did win the big one, there were no fans in the building. He got that run for 6 months or whatever it was as the WWE champion, and there was nobody in the buildings to enjoy it. There was nobody in the buildings to make noise. He had his WrestleMania moment against Brock Lesnar in an empty warehouse. And he has held that bitter pill within him now for 5 years. He's been waiting for that moment to win the championship back and do it in front of a live crowd and have a proper run. And he's still waiting. Even at WrestleMania last year, he won the World Heavyweight Championship and lost it, 3 minutes later? So here he is again. He comes up short. And that was your main event. This was overall, look, I can't say it was a bad show. I cannot say that a show that had that mixed tag match, which was fun, the Io and Stephanie match, which was excellent, even the tag match, the Vision against the Usos. I thought that was a pretty damn solid match there, between those two teams. The main event, it wasn't a bad match. It wasn't a match that's going to stand out among the main events that we've seen this year. That's the only thing. And then the opening match, the less said about that, the better, because I just thought that sucked. So what you end up with here is a pretty decent show on the whole, but certainly not a show that lived up to, any sort of, hey, it's the start of a new era and get ready because there's going to be these major things that happen on this show. No, it felt like your typical WWE PLE. That they really felt the need to overhype because they were starting on a new service. Peacock is done. Now they're on ESPN. They want to make a great first impression. I'm surprised they didn't actually, end the show. Honestly, I'm surprised they didn't end the show with some kind of major angle of some kind. If they weren't going to do a title change, something. That maybe shocked me more than anything else. It was just a very lackluster way to go off the air. The way they started, the way they ended. It's funny. There's an expression that it's about, how you open and how you close. This show was really carried by everything that came in the middle. Seriously, the mixed tag and the women's match. And I also think, looking back at it, that mixed tag should have main evented the show. I understand the desire to put the WWE Championship in that spot, but looking at what we ended up getting, that tag match, which, by the way, was the longest match of the night, should have been the main event of the show. And could have easily been billed as the main event, with the return of AJ Lee and Punk and Rollins continuing their feud. But what's done is done. I think it was, good overall. No thanks to the opening match. But if I had to go, what was the best thing on the entire show? Match-wise, I go with the women's match. Tag match was right there. Tag match, the mixed tag match was fun stuff. But I got to go with that Women's World Championship match. Let's take a look at the Twitter poll. What did you think of WrestlePalooza 2025? 30% thumbs up. 35.5% thumbs in the middle. And 34% thumbs down, with almost 2,200 votes in so far. Very, very mixed bag here. More votes, though, for thumbs down and thumbs in the middle than thumbs up. So, not good. Not good compared to some of their other PLEs this year. I guess maybe they didn't put their best foot forward for their big ESPN debut. Again, I can't go down on that show, thumbs down, just with those matches that I mentioned. But again, we're also talking 5 matches here. There was no reason they couldn't fit a 6th match on that show, other than the fact that they had all the commercials and all the bullshit in between the matches that they had to do, which really wasn't a very good excuse. You could have squeezed in a 6th match and shaved a few minutes off that mixed tag, which did not need to be 30 minutes. So when you only have a 5-match card and some of those matches are like, it kind of drags the entire show down. But I'll say it was a solid show overall. Let's take a look at your super chats here. We are at 533 likes, by the way, which is great. Let's see if we can hit 600 here while I'm live. But we're guaranteed 1B the Booker. We're probably not going to hit the goal for bonus, but we're going to do at least the 1 round. So That'll be coming up here in a little bit. But let me go back to the early ones, just to make sure I don't miss anybody here. I thank you for all of the support. Joseph Stewart was all over this bad boy. He's got a bunch of messages here that have absolutely nothing to do with Wrestlepalooza, which tells you how excited he was about this show. One of his messages, because I know he's a huge Batman fan, he says, "Happy Batman Day, Solomonster." I didn't know, was today Batman Day? Is there a Batman? I didn't even know there was a Batman Day. Is that a thing? I didn't even know that was a thing. But he says, "Were you a fan of the Giant in the NWO?" Specifically in the NWO? No. Not really. Were you a fan of Big Show's run as the Giant in WCW? I like the Giant. Yeah, he was good. That was back when the Giant could do a kip-up in the ring. Do you think Big Show as the Giant could have been a top guy in WCW? What do you mean could have been? He was one of the top guys. He was literally the world champion at one point. I would say he was one of the top guys in WCW. It says, "I went to see Batman Forever today in the theater for its 30th anniversary. It was so good seeing the movie in the theater once again." Yeah, you know, they do that with a bunch of movies where they'll do like a re-release for the 25th anniversary, 30th anniversary. Yeah, they've released They Live in theaters a few times over the years. I've just not been able to go see it. But they're doing that even going into, I think, early next year with some movie. I think they're actually, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, I think, was recently re-released. And I think they're also doing a re-release in March for the second movie, which I would actually like to go see that, like in a theater. See if I actually make it. He also says, "Have you seen a deleted scene from Batman Forever on YouTube where Bruce Wayne faces a giant bat in a bat cave?" I have not, no. Dry chicken, says Solomonster. "I called it. FTR did attempt murder, but unfortunately it was sadly Beth." I mean, there was literally a match on that show tonight where the crowd started chanting that this is murder. So there were multiple murder attempts on that show. Joseph says, "What are your 3 favorite Joker scenes in Batman 89? I don't know that I have 3 I can name off the top of my head, but that portrayal of the Joker is the second best in any Batman movie. I know that's not saying much because there were only 2, but as much as I like Heath Ledger, I still, you know, Jack is right there. Jack is a close number 2. Do you think Sting's Crow gimmick and Raven's gimmick were similar to each other? Dark brooding characters, that's pretty much where it ends though. They're really not that similar. Buy or sell Raven's WCW theme or Raven's WWE theme? I'll go his WCW theme. Were you a fan of Raven's WWE run in the Raven gimmick? No, not really. It was a watered down version of Raven. We got Nick. "I'm kind of shocked at myself just how much I've grown to dislike the current WWE and the direction that it's going. I just had to turn it off. I really do not like the direction that TKO has taken this." There's a lot of people that feel that way. There's a lot of people that have been very turned off by the over-commercialization of WWE. And I feel like it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse before it gets better. John Laurinaitis is with us. Oh, no. We got to get this guy out of here. We got to get this guy out of here. See, he's got no friends left. He's got nowhere to go. So he has to show up on the stream here. You fucking weirdo. John Laurinaitis with the $4.99 says, I sold my house for this seat sign. Truer words have never been spoken. I should say it in his voice. I sold my house for this seat. Truer words have never been spoken. People power. Got Robbie, H5. VPN, best advice I ever got from Solomonster. I mean Stephanie McMahon. Yeah, you don't have to just take my word for it. Stephanie McMahon told you weeks ago. Don't be an idiot and pay $30 for these PLEs. Just use your VPN, but just don't use her VPN. You got to use the one that I'm working with because that's the one I use, and it was fucking great. Worked for me tonight. I used it for SmackDown last night too. After that onslaught of commercials a few weeks ago, I was never using the VPN for SmackDown. I don't know why. I won't make that mistake again. I'll be watching SmackDown on Netflix from now on. WWE Wrestling and Gaming. Who is Cena's opponent going to be in Perth? Hopefully not Brock. I honestly don't know. I don't know. I don't think Cena has any scheduled television appearances between now and Perth. So what is the idea here? The idea to just randomly assign him a match? Or is the plan to do another Brock and Cena match in Perth and have the same exact build where he just, there's no interaction between them? Is Brock even scheduled to be in Perth? I'm not even sure he's going to be on that show. Jason 49ers. Ha. JD and Solo going head to head with the reviews. Is this what Thanksgiving was like for wrestling fans in 1987? Do you realize that today, I believe today, was the first time since 1987 that we had two major promotions running pay-per-views on the same day? I think it might have been. Base Beerus says ESPN uploaded the full Cena versus Lesnar match on YouTube. Really? All 7 minutes of it? I can't wait to not watch it. Once was enough. C's. I thought Io and Stephanie was phenomenal. Do you agree that Io is WWOTY? I don't know what that means, but Io's great, so I assume that means Women's Wrestler of the Year. Yeah, I just talked about that in the review. For me, anyway, she is up to this point my Women's Wrestler of the Year. I'm just playing with you. Brittany Salazar with the $10 super chat. What's going on, Brittany? It's Brittany, bitch. AJ Lee's return was easily the best part of the show, followed by Stephanie's spiral tap. Ring rust will get better with time. I said it earlier, I think the women really carried the show. If you take away, the tag match was fun. A lot of it was based around the interaction between AJ and Becky, and then you have the Women's World Championship match. If that is not on the show, I don't know that I want to watch this show. This show is in a lot of trouble without that stuff. That stuff really did carry the show. So absolutely, I agree. Boomerang, if WWE plans on it counter-programming AEW more like this in the future, they better put a better effort in because All Out cleared it today. Thank you, brother. Jeremy Rose, understand the circumstances, but Steph getting Hall of Fame before Vince is blasphemy. Guess Vince won't see the Hall of Fame alive. Guess not. Guess not. I guess it'll be like some of those guys that also didn't see the Hall of Fame alive because he didn't put them in until they died. It would be kind of poetic if it worked out that way, wouldn't it? Randy Savage. Duff's Vids with a $9.99 says, I'm so happy Chris Statlander is the new AEW Women's World Champion. Yes, we live in a world where on the same night, Stephanie Vaquer and Chris Statlander were both crowned Women's Champion. Women's World Champion. That made me very happy. It did indeed. Let's see if we're caught up with the ones here on the screen. Yes, we are. Okay, so I should be reading it from here. Oz and Glorious says, All Out was a fantastic show. Fuck Brock Lesnar, Triple H, CM Punk, Paul Heyman, and their low-effort counter-programming fed. So there you go. Oz and Glorious. Big AEW fan. Enjoyed All Out. Base Beer says, buy or sell Brock versus Cena or Brock versus Kofi? Is this a trick question? There's nothing to buy or sell. I mean, neither was much of a match. But they did Kofi dirty with that match. So I can't buy on that because Kofi deserved better than that. Javier says, Viva Chile, Viva Stephanie. Yes, I agree. Viva Stephanie. Hey, Cameo Johnson is with us. What's going on, Cameo? Cameo is making a cameo here on the stream. All right, we've got the Shaunathon with a $5 super chat. I owe you a huge thank you for your VPN recommendation to save $30 for this show. The mixed tag, in my opinion, should have main evented. We think along the same wavelengths, my friend. Yes. Yes, it should have. Especially if that's what they had planned for the Cody and Drew match. The tag match should have absolutely main evented the show. And you're very welcome. You're going to make very good use of that VPN going forward. It's been a lifesaver for me. SMG Kobe. Triple H secured his wife's spot in case he gets canned. So it's safe. It's safe for at least the next 7 months. Everyone's playing checkers. He's playing chess. Is that what you're saying? Look, if Triple H is ever going to find himself on the hot seat, it's going to be when they have a business downturn. And the first thing they're going to look at is creative. That's why I've said there's got to be a scapegoat when that time comes, and he'll be on the hot seat because he's the head of creative. But that's not going to happen for a while. So his seat is safe for some time. I don't think he's too worried about that right now. Hey, Sidro, I see you. I see you've been awfully quiet tonight, but I see Sidro in the chat. We got Sidro. Oh, well, I swear I didn't see that his chat was next. I swear to God I didn't know his chat was next. Sidro has the next super chat from an hour ago. Where do you learn to make a banana split? Sunday school. And which plant in the Netherlands writes good music? Oh my God. Holland Oats. Holland Oats. I gave you that because you made a Hall & Oates joke, and I can't kick you out for that. We got Jeremy with the $22 super chat. This show is mid as fuck. Typical TKO WWE BS. Tons of commercials, tons of advertising, no creativity. How is this show going to get them new audience when it's on some extra pay ESPN app instead of free ESPN to get new eyeballs? Let me tell you something, brother. If you want this show on free ESPN and you're upset at the commercials you got tonight, be careful what you wish for. If you were upset by the commercials they gave you tonight, just imagine what it's going to be like when they do air part of these shows on free ESPN. And when they do, by the way, the plan is to air maybe an hour or two, and then you would have to switch over to the app to watch the remainder of the show. So those select shows that do air on the linear channel, that's how it's going to work. They're not going to air the entire thing on there. C's. I genuinely cannot think of any other women's wrestler who has higher in-ring peaks than Io Sky. She's great. She's great. She knows how to bring the crowd into the match. It's almost like she's been doing this for a long time. Oz and Glorious, Brock is pissed that he didn't F5 Cena 44 times. Huh? Well, it felt like he did. Did he not? I think it was like 6. He's got 38 more to go. Abyssal Zones. If Cena takes one more F5, he ties Roman's record. You know what's sad? I remember a time where Brock Lesnar used to actually wrestle. Sad. Duff's Vids, I have a horse named Mayo. And Mayo neighs. Does she? William Sanchez, not William Shatner. Although he's always welcome to join us here. William Sanchez is with us with a $9.99. I used ExpressVPN, but I still had to change my location a few times. I had some buffering and image quality. Thank God I didn't spend $30 on this show. 5 out of 10, boring show. Yeah, I didn't have any issues. I think I was on... What server was I on? I was on a UK server. I think it was UK Docklands, maybe? Sometimes I use a Canadian server. Thankfully, I didn't have any issues. Thank you, brother. Zizou, 39 months of channel membership, says 1 more month till 40. It's been that long. Wow. Thanks for always being here. I'm always here, brother. You know that. I'm happy to have you. You're going to hit the big 4-0. That's it. You're going to be over the hill. And Zizou gifted a channel membership as well. Thank you, Zizou. We got Dallas with 46 months of membership. Drew was screwed again. Time for a boring wait until Survivor Series. I hope Chad Gable is doing okay. Triple H is a fraud. He's the bald fraud. I'm hoping that Gable is back by the end of the year. Duff's Vids, the inventor of Velcro, died today. Rest in peace. On the same day that Stephanie Velcro won the Women's Championship. That's very appropriate. Also, he says, a horse walked into a bar. The bartender said, hey. The horse said, yes, please. He didn't want any pretzels. Just wanted some hay. Corbin Rogers with the $100 bomb that I read earlier. It was so big, I couldn't wait. I had to read it. Corbin, thank you again, man. You own the big bomb of the night. I appreciate you very much. Jeremy says WWE going full circle with Undertaker abducting Steph and then decades later inducting her. That's right, he abducted her. Well, I don't know if he's doing the induction, but yes, he goes from abducting her to inducting her. We got Isaiah, who says, yeah, Booker T voice. Was that Booker T or Macho Man that I just did? I don't know. Oh, shucky, shucky. What does he do when Trick Williams comes out? God, he always loses his mind. He's like, oh, yeah. What's he doing? Wait, when Trick comes out? How does it go? He's like singing along to Trick's song. Oh, yeah. God, Booker is out of his mind. Justin Red Devil. Cody's title defenses are so dry, and many of them end very unexcitedly. Is referee Ryan Tran's gimmick blocking guys from doing legal strikes? Apparently so, yes. I don't know why he was so intent on making sure that Drew didn't do something outside the ring that really is not illegal. Kratos says that the inventor of Velcro died on February 8th, 1990. So evidently that's not true. Actually, in 1990, I was probably still wearing Velcro. Bobby Means, with 19 months of membership, we know that what the men's war games could be, but if you had the pen, how would you book the women's war games? I can't book the women's war games on the spot like this. That's not how it works. I could guess, that you would have maybe Team AJ against Team Becky. Maybe you do that. AJ Lee on a team with Rhea Ripley and Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer. That'd be a pretty good War Games team. Or if you want to get SmackDown talent in there, you can replace one of them. Well, actually, that's 4. So you would have to add a 5th one, maybe Tiffany. Or Bianca. I mean, you got plenty of options there. But maybe like a Team AJ and then Becky leads the charge on the heel side. And then you come up with, 4 partners for Becky Lynch. Bailey with her multiple personalities, maybe. The Boba Fetts, you're very welcome in the chat. You also used the ExpressVPN tonight to watch the show. I heard from a lot of people who used it, and that's very cool. I like it when people can get real use out of this. But again, you can get use out of it all week long. I use it for Raw and SmackDown. I don't use it for AEW, but I use it for Dynamite. Although I know now, but I could have used it for All Out and watched it on Triller, but lesson learned. I'll talk about what happened there tomorrow on the Sound Off when I review the show. Jeremy said, why is nobody talking about Stephanie's shoulders were down too? I didn't notice if both. I thought one shoulder maybe was up a little bit, but I'd have to go back and take a look at it again. I doubt it's not gonna result in anything. We got our good friend Give Me Back Shots Solomonster. Giving Oba the O2. Hold on a second, where'd it go? Giving Oba the O2 Brock push is better than Gunther's IC push. I mean, it could work either way. I would rather see him, there's nothing wrong with the Gunther IC push. I think things worked out pretty well for Gunther on the main roster. But I'm also not against trying to get a new guy, really dominantly over in the main event scene at a time when they could really use someone new in the main event scene. So, you know what? I wouldn't hate it either way if it were me. I'd go more in terms of the Gunther push and not rush him into anything, but we could certainly use someone like Oba on the main roster right now. I'm a little worried about what's going to happen when Triple H gets a hold of him, though. Diego Vasquez, I pirated the PLE and still want a refund. Oh, wait. There you go. Oh, wait, you were serious. The Average Grunt, just popping in from my hotel room, got to see All Out live and had a blast. Hope we, the crowd, came off well on TV. There were some matches on that show where the crowd in Toronto was dead. And then there were some where they were very much up. And I haven't seen the main event yet. Jake with a 5. Going to Wrestle Dream in St. Louis next month, and I got great seats. That's awesome. Thoughts on potential matches? Tony versus Statlander feels like a given, but what else? I'm assuming they're not going to do Hangman MJF until either Full Gear or World's End. So for Hangman, I would assume maybe another member of the Callis family. I don't really know what they're going to do with the world title. The TNT title, it could be, I mean, again, it could be any number of people. I don't think they've really set anybody else up. Again, I haven't seen the main event yet tonight, but I don't think they've really given any real indication of who would be next in line for like a TNT title pay-per-view match. So as far as other matches that could take place on that show, even Okada Takeshita, I would not go right to it at Wrestle Dream. I think that you have Takeshita, you know, go to the Continental Classic, and you end up with Okada and Takeshita at the end of the Continental Classic. So Moxley and Darby, their issues are going to continue. You could do a rematch there on that show. I mean, it was Wrestle Dream a year ago, really, where the Death Riders became a thing. So, you know, I could see Moxley getting his, or Darby getting his revenge on that show. They have some people back now. Eddie Kingston just came back. Orange Cassidy is coming back this Wednesday. You know, how might they factor into things? We'll talk more AEW on the podcast tomorrow. But you got great seats. I'm sure you're going to get a great show, Jake. I wouldn't be too worried right now about the card that's a month away.
I am the Lynch.
Shut the fuck up.
Maybe you'll get this guy back on the show. Maybe you should be worried.
Fuck that tree.
I take that back. Maybe you should be worried. The Learning Tree is here with us. That's Derek. I'm going to get to Derek in a moment here. Leopard Toes, the Kiss My Dong Club. Telling you, when the Undertaker's dong goes off, everybody stops what they're doing. Jeremy says, does Punk Seth next one-on-one match need to have a stipulation? I think even if WrestleMania, for the title, we need a blow-off stipulation of some kind. Probably, yeah. I think so. And I don't think it has to be Hell in a Cell. I know some people have said, oh, it should be Hell in a Cell. It doesn't have to be. It could be some sort of no disqualification type stipulation. It doesn't have to be anything too wacky. But it probably should have a stipulation that assures you that it will not end by DQ or countout. So whether you call it Extreme Rules, you call it No Holds Barred, you know, Falls Count anywhere. I mean, you can do any kind of stipulation like that. I don't see a World Championship WrestleMania main event being Last Man Standing. Because I was just thinking Last Man Standing would kind of be an appropriate stipulation. But I think with WrestleMania and the main event, you want to have that decisive, you know, pinfall or submission finish. So I don't really think that works as well. Duff's Vids, I called the tinnitus hotline. No one answered. It just kept ringing. You know, I have some of that myself. It's not fun. Hoofman Entertainment, remember Stephanie created women's wrestling. Why do you think she's going into the Hall of Fame? I'm sure whoever inducts her, that'll be part of the speech. Cameo Johnson. Salute to you, Solo, having to watch these shows because, geez. Did you see that Edge showed respect to John Cena? Yes, I did. That was cool. That was a cool moment. Cena did the spear last month, and then Edge did the You Can't See Me and the Attitude Adjustment. So that was cool. When Jim Johnston... when is Jim Johnston going into the Hall of Fame? Long overdue, needs a documentary, to be honest. He should be going into the Hall of Fame before Stephanie does. He should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame. I think it will happen, but I have absolutely no idea when. I could see them one day throwing him, God forbid when he's not around, like throwing him in there as a legacy inductee. So there doesn't have to be a big speech or anything. But when you really consider how long he was there and the importance and the significance of the work that he did, how he's not in the Hall of Fame already is a complete joke. It's an absolute joke. Aaron, Body Slam reports there hasn't been creative talks of Liv versus Roxanne when Liv returns. Does Stephanie hold until Mania and face Liv and Roxanne faces AJ? Don't know what that would mean for people like Rhea and Io. I'm going to say that it's way too early to be even taking anything like that seriously, because even if there isn't any chatter right now creatively of doing something with Liv and Roxanne when Liv returns, like the creative for WrestleMania season is going to change so many times between now and then. It's going to change so many times. Could we be looking at Stephanie and Liv for the time? Of course we can, but you're assuming Stephanie is even going to be the champion come WrestleMania. She may not be the champion 3 months from now. So it's kind of pointless to take stuff like that at face value, even if it's accurate now, and assume that that's going to be the case 6 months from now. MacTub, more talented performer overall, Foley or Triple H? Foley. Yeah. I mean, Foley just had this great ability to just make his opponent in a way that I think Triple H just didn't. Duff's Vids with a 1999. If you have buffering issues, make sure the time zone on your device matches the VPN location. I was having issues also and talked with Express Agent who told me to try that and it worked. Hope this helps. Rip the word, not rest in peace. Rip the word, not rest in peace? What is that in reference to? But that's actually a very good point. That could be very useful for people. So if you ever do have any issues with buffering, which you shouldn't when you're using your VPN, but if you do, there's some great advice there from Duff's Vids. Thank you, brother. Yeah, Kevin makes a great point in the chat. Foley got a sock over. Triple H can never get a sock over. Foley got a sock over. Jericho got a scarf over and a list over. Derek J speaks. Oh, the Velcro joke. Ah, I see. How did that go over my head? So he was talking about the Velcro joke. The RIP was son of a bitch. Derek J speaks. I'm fine with main events having no interference or twists and swerves and just having a clean finish. But when the head booker promises surprises, finishes like tonight feel super anticlimactic. I don't know, brother. What are you talking about, man? You got the Undertaker coming out and inducting Stephanie McMahon in the Hall of Fame. There's your surprise. Aren't you surprised? Bobby Means, I heard Chris Statlander won the AEW Women's title. I'm happy for Chris, but putting the title on her now. Yikes. Why yikes? I see nothing wrong with it. I'm happy for her. She had not challenged for that championship in 4 years. It was a long time. Aaron, did you see Bret Hart was offended that Goldberg never donated him any of his millions in Saudi money for ending his career? I think that there are people who take some of Bret's comments that in some cases are clearly meant in jest or just to kind of get a reaction and take it a little too seriously. Because he said that a while ago. And do I think he honestly believes that? No, but I think he also enjoys just shitting on Goldberg, and he sees how other people enjoy it, and it's turned into, you know, just pure comedy. Like, he knows what he's doing. I'm not saying he isn't genuinely upset with Goldberg or doesn't like Goldberg on some level, but he definitely plays it up. And I think some people don't see that. You know, I saw that they're going to be at the big event, which is the big convention that's coming up in Suffolk County, up in Brentwood in New York on November 15th. Bret Hart and Bill Goldberg will both be two of the many stars appearing at the big event. How great would it be if they actually put their booths next to each other? How great would that be? They show up, they're like, where's my booth? And like, Bret's here and Goldberg is right here. Can you imagine? House of Glory is running a show at the big event. I'll be there as well. Bret will be there, Goldberg will be there, and the Solomonster will be there. And House of Glory will be there. We're going to have some big announcements about that very soon. I can't spill the beans just yet, but I'm very excited. Dr. Scorpio. Bitter Bret might be his best run since 97. Bitter Bret is very entertaining, actually. It definitely beats Cowboy Bret from early in his career. How great would that be, though? Seriously, if they put their two tables next to each other. Oh man! All right. Well, we actually just passed 600 likes. Asking ye shall receive. We're at 9 out of 15 on the secondary goal in the chat. That's pinned, so it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But we do get one round of Be the Booker as of this moment. So let's not waste any more time. Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
let's do it.
It is now time to be the Booker.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is Be the Booker time. What does CM Punk say on Mondays when he comes out? It's great to be alive on a Monday night. It's great to be alive for Be the Booker here on a Saturday night. Book ourselves a tag team match. You know, Bret Hart and Goldberg are a team in Be the Booker, as we found out just the other night when it was the last night, I think, and we landed on them as a tag team. Well, it's not Bret and Goldberg, but it's Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. I don't know if they ever had a team name, but they were a damn good team, former tag team champions too, as you can see. Oh, we're up 10 out of 15. We just bumped up on the goal. We're creeping up. Tyson, wow. Wow. Tyson Kidd and Cesaro against Bret and Owen Hart. Where can I, you know what? I'll take my $30 that ESPN wants and I'll put it towards that match. I'll buy a ticket to see that match. Man, Bret and Owen against Tyson and Claudio. Now that is a hell of a match right there. All right, on the women's side, we have Willow Nightingale. Big fan of Willow. Sorry. Willow Nightingale taking on Timeless. Actually, she's not timeless in this image, but it is Toni Storm. Of course, we're going to give this the bell because that would be a fucking great match. Willow and Toni. And now our final match of the evening. Our main event will feature William Regal. He made a cameo at Full Sail on Tuesday on the NXT show to shout, War Games, War Games. You know, when they announce War Games this year, they need to put him on TV. Just have him randomly walk out there and just say War Games and then just walk to the back. I know he's at all these shows. He's already there. You may as well use him. William Regal against the former World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest. Well, if we're only going to have one round tonight, that's the way you do it, man. You get a clean sweep. And there it is. Bret and Owen Hart against Cesaro and Tyson Kidd. Willow Nightingale against Tony Storm. And Damian Priest against William Regal. Add it to your fantasy cards, boys and girls. We booked it tonight. Oh, thank God we didn't book her in a match. If you watch TNT, then you'll know what I mean when I say beer mode. It is Brie mode. Alex with the $25 super chat. We're up to 11 out of 15 on the goal. Brother Solo, I had a feeling that you missed Brie. It's been a while. Did this show prove that no matter how much you hype a PLE, these B-level PLEs will always just be glorified house shows? Well, I mean, it's more like a glorified Saturday night's main event or something. I mean, I wouldn't say house show, but yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, they really make it out to be some sort of monumental, you know, earth-shattering event. And I understand that that's their job to hype up their shows, but there was absolutely nothing about this show that delivered on any of that, you know. Some of the matches were good, and when it was over, it just felt like another show. It almost, dare I say, felt like a show that didn't exist before, but existed in large part to counter-program another show that was scheduled for this very day. We have Omerta 316 TV with a $6 super chat. Solomonster is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be at wrestling podcasting. You know what, Omerta? Yeah! I think I'm going to give that a yeah. That's what I'm going to give you. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. House shows aren't even recorded, says Deputy Dog. They used to be. Actually, the better question would be what house shows? They don't do them anymore. They're very rare. They're very, very rare. They barely even do them anymore. Fell asleep 10 minutes into it. WWE is the best cure for insomnia. You know, again, it's just crazy to think that we were 45 minutes. This is the first impression they're making on potentially newer fans who are tuning in for the first time. And 45 minutes go by, and the only thing they've seen is Brock Lesnar and John Cena in that match that they gave you, and that was it. And the Usos are still in the stands, you know, yeeting and singing on their way to the ring. Like, what are we doing here? I thought this was like the night to put your best foot forward and keep the action rolling, and I guess not. Says, I actually thought AJ Lee looked pretty bad in that match. And that match just would not end. It was a very long match. I didn't think AJ looked bad. I don't know what people's expectations for her were, because here's the thing. AJ, how do I say this? AJ was among the best of what was a very, compared to today's women that they have in the women's division, a very average bunch. She stood out more than most because she had a certain charisma that a lot of those women just didn't have. And she was pushed very heavily. She was a major character on the show. She wasn't known for her in-ring work. Not that she was a shitty wrestler, but there was nothing about her matches or her in-ring work that stood the test of time, right? She goes into the Hall of Fame one day, which she will. She's not going in for her long list of classic matches. That's not what people remember and loved AJ Lee for. She just had that intangible quality that not a lot of people have. But she really was. She was among the best of a very average bunch when you compare them to what you see now on TV. That's just a fact. So when the bell rings, I think you need to temper your expectations as far as what you're expecting out of AJ Lee. I'm not expecting AJ Lee to go in there and have the kind of matches Io Sky is having, for example. Although an AJ Lee Io Sky match would be very interesting. I actually would like to see how that match goes. So I thought she did fine. Her punches looked very weak, but she's also a very tiny woman. So I don't expect her to be throwing punches in there like she's Sheamus. You know, she's not going to be in there throwing these clubbing blood. I mean, she's not going to be in there doing strong style, throwing forearm shots like Minoru Suzuki. So I do think you need to keep that in mind when we're looking at an AJ Lee match. That was the most noticeable thing to me. It was her strikes. They look poor. But she was never known for having great strikes to begin with. Has Triple H lost his spark or something? Because this year in particular has felt off compared to previous years. I think that they are just coasting because they're making all of this money on these media rights deals. They made this big deal with ESPN. And, you know, what we're seeing is sort of the bare minimum of what they can get by on, you know, and still be able to sell tickets and still be able to make moments. They love making moments. It's all about the moments. He plays it safe a lot. I've said that a lot about him in the past. He plays it way too safe a lot of times. And that's also what we're seeing now. You know, he doesn't need to really shake things up in any kind of major way because they're making money and they're doing well and they're making these billion-dollar deals. And so we must be doing something right. And this is their way of doing it. It's a different product now than it used to be. People will have their opinions about whether or not that means it's better, whether or not that means it's worse. This is not the wrestling that I grew up on. I'll just say that. The wrestling that I watch today, and it's not just in WWE, the wrestling that I watch today is not the wrestling that I watched and loved and fell in love with when I first became a fan. I've learned to adapt and sort of accept it. There are elements of it that I love. There are elements of it that I don't love. The weekly shows to me are very, very boring. They're very dull. You'll get a really great one here and there, but it's not what it used to be. And what the product is now is it's very polished and showy in a way that it never used to be, where there's this emphasis on the pomp and circumstance and the entrances and, you know, what kind of shots, camera shots can we get? And you got to yeet in the crowd and get and this and that. It's like a Hollywood production in a way that it never used to be. And it has also been very much corporatized. That's not the right word for it, but that doesn't help. It just doesn't feel organic. Yeah, I mean, very, very soulless. It really does. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but that's just how it feels. It has no soul. It's like if you were looking into someone's eyes, right? And you're just looking and they're just kind of looking and burning a hole through you and you're looking at their eyes and there's nothing there. That's WWE. I know that look because when I met Kurt Angle for the first time, I'm sorry to say it, he had that look in his eyes. He had this very kind of glassy, glossed over, glazed look in his eyes. This was back in 2008. But that's WWE now. It's like an empty vessel. Maze the Great. AJ was a literal diamond in a pile of shit back then. Well, it's not really proper use of the word literal, but that's the English student in me now coming out. But I get your point. Yes, your point is correct. Oh, man. Jane Love. Thank you for the super chat. I don't know. I don't know what specifically you're referring to. But he can wave the flag for whoever he wants. That was peak. See, we call him Peak Angle now. He doesn't like being called Perk Angle, so we call him Peak Angle. That was Peak Angle back then. That's true. Tuxedo says, no, Solo. AJ is really a piece of super compressed coal. Okay, so maybe she literally was a diamond in the rough back then. A diamond in a pile of shit. Maybe she literally was. AJ Lee's tweet made women's wrestling what it is today. Then Stephanie decided to invent women's wrestling. I'll tell you what, those tweets that AJ put out back then, you talk about standing up for the women in wrestling, that probably did more than most to stand up for women in wrestling. That's part of her legacy as well. It's the part of her legacy they probably won't like talking about, but that's definitely a big part of her legacy. Could Punk and Seth at Mania be a 3 stages of hell match? Yeah, you could do that. 3 stipulations in one. For a WrestleMania main event, it'd be a little much, but I mean, you could do that. Hey, DeRock Gaming, what's going on, man? Says, I enjoy your live streams. Keep up the good work. Was WrestlePalooza supposed to be a major show? When I watched it, it didn't feel like one of the big 4 PL. No. So the COO of TKO said that his hope is that WrestlePalooza could become an annual event that is on the level of their top 4 PLEs. And I don't care how much they want to hype it up. I don't care how much they want to dramatically talk about, all the big names and the big stars that are on the show and the celebrities that were there to see it. There's no way you come away from watching this WrestlePalooza show tonight and think that this is anywhere near the level of a Royal Rumble or a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam. We do not need a 2-night WrestlePalooza next year. Let's put it that way. And if that's what they want this show to be, they have a lot of work to do. Jane Love, what is your favorite Triple H match? Mine is the 3 stages of hell with Stone Cold, funny enough. That is funny, actually. Actually, what's even funnier about that is that Triple H beat him in that match, and everything was set up perfectly for him to be challenging Austin for the title coming out of WrestleMania that year, but Triple H is a very savvy guy. And I think he could read the tea leaves and said, you know what? I'd rather be paired off with this guy than be fed to him as his first victim. Smart man, that Triple H is. Do I have a favorite Triple H match? I do. And I think for me, I'm kind of actually torn between 2. Actually, I'm torn between 3, to be honest with you. I think my 3 favorite Triple H matches are the street fight at the Rumble with Cactus Jack, the Iron Man match with Rock at Judgment Day in 2000, and the tag team title match on Raw in 2001 with him and Austin against Jericho and Benoit. There's 3 awesome matches. And if I had to boil it down to just one, I'm probably going with the Iron Man match at Judgment Day in 2000, which is my favorite Iron Man match. Or at least it was until MJF and Bryan Danielson. That one's pretty damn good too. But yeah, it probably would be that one. Backlash 2000, that was good too. That should have been the WrestleMania main event that year. The only reason they pushed it back was because Austin wasn't ready yet to do his run-in. I mean, he had just had spinal fusion surgery in January. He was still wearing a halo. So they waited until April. They gave him another month, and then he showed up, and I'll never forget it. All the comments online, oh, he got fat. It's Fat Austin. Yeah, well, it's not like the guy didn't just have neck surgery and wasn't working out and was sitting at home recuperating from a major surgery. Fuck him for putting a few pounds on. Probably just sat around drinking beer all day. Dr. Scorpio, looking at the super chats here. WWE's next Saudi show should be called Sold Out. S-O-U-L-E. They should bring back the WCW Sold Out name. That would be funny. Street Fighter 88 with the $10 super chat. Hey, Street Fighter, thank you. Congrats to Stephanie. This was the first time her father watched her wrestle live. Wow, and she won the world championship. It's also his birthday tomorrow. Knew she was winning tonight. Yeah, I had heard that her family, they may have even mentioned it on SmackDown last night, that her family was going to be there. I didn't know it was specifically her father. And that right there was probably the giveaway about how that match was going to go. Cameo Johnson with another $4.99. AJ Lee against Liv Morgan. Can't wait. Liv knows how to get under your skin. Minus her. Don't want to see AJ fight these new women. Will wrestle circles around AJ. Look, a lot of the women on the roster can wrestle circles around AJ. I do think that there are some women that she would be better off with. I think Roxanne is one. I think Liv Morgan is one. I think her and Bayley could do some fun stuff. Her and Becky, you know, when they eventually have their singles match, I think that'll be good. I don't know how an AJ Lee Rhea Ripley match would look. I don't think I want to see an AJ Lee Jade Cargill match. I don't necessarily want to see an AJ Lee Nia Jax match. There are just some matches that just seem like a mismatch that I don't think they would gel well together. So I think there's certain women that they should keep her away from, but there are others that I think she would probably have good chemistry with. Can you imagine AJ Lee against Nia Jax? I don't know. I don't think that would end well. AJ against Jade. Real graps. Yeah. Real graps. You haven't seen real graps until you see AJ Lee against Jade Cargill. AJ Lee against Candice. Actually, that'd be a pretty good match, actually. AJ Lee maybe one day against Sol Ruka. How's that for a match? Do a little soul snatching. So the Rumble should be titled Sold Out because that is the next Saudi show. Well, he means the Saudi show after that should be called Sold Out. How about Greed is Good for a PLE type? But that's every PLE. That's every WWE show now. That should be the new signature at the beginning of the show. You know how it says then, now, forever? It should just be Greed is Good at the very beginning of every single show. Somebody mentioned Shawn's match with Triple H at SummerSlam in 2002. Yeah, I had people write into me asking me about, you know, Bret Hart making the comment recently that Triple H never had a good match. And again, people just need to understand, like, he doesn't like Triple H. Fucking hates his guts. So that's where he's coming from. Of course, Triple H has had great matches in his career. What is a WCW match gimmick that has yet to be brought back that you would want to see? I don't think there is one. I wanted War Games. We have War Games now. I wanted them to bring back Halloween Havoc, and they did. They gave it to NXT. As far as a match concept, I mean, they used to do that lethal lottery thing. I don't think that would work well. They used to have that triple-decker cage. I never liked that. Some people might want to bring that back. I don't need to see that. But what other match concepts were there that they created? Chamber of Horrors? We don't need to see that. I don't know what, I mean, seriously, what other match concepts are there? Outside of the triple cage and the Chamber of Horrors, I'm drawing a blank on what other ones there would even be. Yeah, there's Dancing Brian. There he is. Devin says, Dr. Scorpio says, then, now, forever, sold out. LOL. Devin says, does Solo consider WrestleMania 9 to be part of the Golden Era or the New Generation Era? It is part of the Golden Era. It's like the very tail end of the Golden Era. I don't really consider the New Generation Era to be a thing until 94. You know, Hogan was there, WrestleMania 9. You can't call that the New Generation. If Hogan was still there and being pushed and was the world champion, it wasn't the New Generation. Base Beer says Triple H against Shelton was a good TV match. Sure. So was Triple H against Taka Michinoku. That was also a memorable TV match. Although Triple H against Shelton was not as good of a match as Shelton and Shawn. In that Gold Rush tournament they did, that's what the famous super kick. Remember, wasn't that the Gold Rush tournament that Eric Bischoff set up for a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship? And Shawn Michaels was the surprise opponent for Shelton Benjamin. I think Shawn, who won that tournament? Was it Shawn or Edge? I think Edge, right? Who won that tournament? I don't even remember. World War III. Oh, yeah, no. I never liked World War III. World War III was their 3-ring, 60-man battle royal. It was a complete clusterfuck. It's too much. That's too much. We don't need 3 rings, and we don't need 60 guys. Didn't WCW have a match in a swimming pool? No, they had the spring break shows. Kevin Nash once did a cannonball into the pool. Big Show pressed Scott Hall over his head and into the pool. That was at Club La Vila, which I don't believe is there anymore. I think it burned down. I miss those spring break shows in WCW. That's why, you know, when AEW does these some of these theme shows, it's just such a waste. You know, they have Beach Break, for example, right? But I think they did Beach Break once in like January. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what is the purpose of even having a show like that? Unless you're going to have it in, you know, a setting that actually jives with the title of the show. It would be like doing a spooky Halloween show in March. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I would love for them to find it. Okay, so Club La Vila is not an option anymore, but you mean to tell me you can't find a location, like a spring break type of location, and do a show like that? They're running shows in buildings that fit like 800 people on some weeks. You mean to tell me you can't take 1 week and do a special outdoor show in a like a tropical climate somewhere, and there's like a pool out there, and just have some fun with it? They did that when I went on the Jericho cruise 5 years ago. They actually had a wrestling event on the top deck of the ship, and they had a lot of the AEW talents there. And this was right after AEW started, because this was in January of 2020. And they had a pool. The ring was right there, but then there was a pool that was right there. And I remember MJF actually got thrown into the pool. You mean to tell me you can't find a location like that and just do a show from there? Yeah, their home state. Thank you. Their home state is fucking Florida. Like, it can't be that hard. Like, WWE will never do that shit, right? Can't sell enough tickets. But that's where, like, AEW could have some fun with stuff like that and try to be different. Base Beer says JBL was SmackDown champion. We never saw the belt. We never saw the belt. What do you mean we never saw the belt? He had the undisputed title design. I smoke a lot of weed. My boy is with us. He's back. He's back. Ice Smoker with a $4.99. Worst Brock botch. Extreme Rules 2012. Oh my God. Jeez. You talk about scary. Extreme Rules, jumping on the steps, taking a nasty spill over the ropes, or the shooting star press at WrestleMania, or the Jeff Hardy steel chair. The Jeff Hardy steel chair sounded like just absolute death, but he was fine. Somehow he didn't break his face. The worst Brock botch was WrestleMania. I mean, there's just no worse time for something like that to happen than the main event of WrestleMania, and it was going to be the finish of the match. Like, there's no way Kurt was kicking out of that. So he was going to win his first world championship in the main event of WrestleMania in front of 54,000 people by doing a move that nobody would have expected him to do unless they saw him in Ohio Valley, and do this unbelievable shooting star press. And not only did he botch the move, he almost fucking killed himself. Like, it doesn't get any worse than that. But I'm actually glad you brought up that Extreme Rules botch. I was just thinking about it the other day. I must have come across like a reel or something on Instagram maybe. And somebody actually posted that clip, and because I had forgotten about it. You talk about a scary bump. That is a scary bump. I don't know what he was thinking there. Because the steps were in the ring. Cena's on the apron. And Brock got a running start, and he launched himself off the steps, and he was like this. Like, he was going to come with like a diving elbow. And he knocked Cena off the apron, but he got so much height that when he went over the ropes, really, but his legs caught the ropes. And he's a big fucking guy. So the way he hit the ropes, and because his legs hit, he took this tumble, and he basically looked like he landed on his head on the floor. He's a 300-pound jacked up dude. I don't know how he didn't break his neck. I have, to this day, I have no idea how he didn't get injured on that bump. Someone was watching over him that day. But imagine someone of Brock's size flying at you like that. It's like the first time I knew that roaches could fly. My life changed forever. Once I saw like whatever it was, a roach, a water bug, and it fucking flew, my life was never the same. It was like BC AD for Solomonster. Like I learned a very valuable lesson that day. When you see something like that flying towards you, life is never the same again after that. Broly says WWE is lucky to have Io Sky. Very lucky. They are very lucky. She's the best in the world. Base Beer is when Teddy had the belt in a sack. Batista debuted. I have no memory of anything that you're saying. Teddy Long had the belt in a sack. Okay. I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it. Retro KOH Solo, that super chat referred to JBL becoming SmackDown champion in 2005, only for Batista to be drafted. Okay. I don't remember that, but I mean that clarifies it, but I have no memory of this. I'll be honest with you. There's a period of SmackDown especially, probably from around that time, probably 04, 05 through maybe 08. That for me is probably mostly a blur. You know, and I was watching the product at the time, but there's just It's clearly not my favorite era of SmackDown. And there's just not a whole hell of a lot that really stands out to me about that period. Broly with a $4.99. Triple H put the world title on Steph/Tiffy in less than a year. Why is he so scared to do the same with men? It's always the same men fighting for titles. It's a good question. He does do it with the women. He really doesn't do it with the men. I think the men are so, if you look at who's in the main event scene in WWE, there's a lot of established names there who have cemented their spot. Look at LA Knight. You know, at this point, it's pretty clear to me that LA Knight ain't ever going to touch the world championship in this company. I would love to be wrong about that, but as popular as he is, you know, he's someone who got over, and you could have easily vaulted him to a world title run if it meant taking the title away from a Seth Rollins or a Drew McIntyre or somebody like that. Oh my God. Like, they would survive, they would be okay, and you would help elevate LA Knight to that next rung of the ladder, and they just won't do it. So you're not wrong. It's the same people that seem to always be in the title picture, whether it's Seth or Cody or Punk, Drew, Brock. Who else? Who am I missing? Oz and Glorious, the Solomonster versus Insects Chronicles. Oh, the stories I could tell. Oh, the stories. Yeah, me and Insects is just a war for the ages. I hate bugs. Roman, thank you. How did I forget Roman? The biggest one of all. Fucking 3.5 years as the champion. But, you know, whatever. That's fine. Roman was the guy. But even beyond Roman, it was just a lot of the same people over and over again. Kevin Owens. You know, Kevin Owens would get shot after shot after shot. He would never win. But he would get shot after shot after shot. But it's okay, everybody, because, you know, we're going to get Jericho back in a few months, possibly. So, get some fresh faces on that men's side. Anyone still think the cross thing is a work? It is not a work. So you're not a fan of Spider-Man or the Wasp? No, I am not a fan of the Wasp. After my recent battle with the Wasps, no, I am not a fan of the Wasp. Did you miss my my Yellow Jacket battles of a few weeks ago? Spider-Man's okay with me. He may not like me. I've killed a lot of his family members, but... Baze Beer says Stephanie in the Hall of Fame before China. China is technically in the Hall of Fame, but they inducted her as part of DX. She still has not gotten a solo induction. But yes, Stephanie in the Hall of Fame before China, as far as like a proper induction, it does feel wrong. Oz and Gloria, someone mentioned Saudi Phil has been back for 2 years and has only had 2 actual feuds the entire time. Is that true? Seth, Drew, yeah. Seth and Drew. He mixed it up with Roman a little bit, but they've not had like a proper feud. Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. That's been it for him so far. Tawab says Raja Jackson is finally arrested. It only took 4 years, but justice prevailed. Justice has not yet prevailed. Raja Jackson is already a free man. He's already bonded out. He bonded out that night. Justice has yet to be served. I smoke a lot of weed. Another super chat says, a wrestler's worst botches. Oh, you want me to do an analysis and rank? Do a botch list, a botch countdown one day? It's an idea. I mean, there have been some bad ones. There have certainly been. I don't know that there's been one worse than Sid, but I mean, that one still gives me the heebie-jeebies when I think back to it. Cope versus Cena retirement match would have been nice. Well, Cope is another one. Broke his leg last year coming off the top of the cage. That bail money his dad set aside came through. Yeah. What a wonderful father. He said he put college tuition money away for his 2 Japanese kids. I guess that's what he calls them, my Japanese kids. And he put bail money aside for Raja and his brother. Well done, Dad. Good job. Cyndi Lauper should be in the Hall of Fame before Stephanie. I agree, and I still to this day don't understand why she's not in. People used to say, oh, well, she doesn't want to go in. She said no. Actually, no, she hasn't said no. So, still don't really have a good answer about that. Oz says, the Nepotism Hall of Fame chosen by nepotism. It's the way it goes. When you don't have a real Hall of Fame and you just kind of pick and choose who you want to put in there, those are the kinds of decisions that ultimately end up getting made. I thought for sure Demolition would be going in this year. Every year that goes by, they get 1 year older. I'm just saying. And they're not the only ones. There's a whole bunch of names that should be in there, for being honest. Is Bundy in there? I don't think King Kong Bundy is in there. How is he not in there? Unfortunately, he's not around anymore either. See, Bundy is one, that one makes me sad too, because Bundy, for those who don't know, Bundy actually ended up doing some stand-up comedy work, like later in life. Bundy was a funny guy. I feel like a King Kong Bundy acceptance speech at the Hall of Fame would have been very entertaining. But we'll never get to see it. Yep, the Midnight Express and Bobby Eaton is no longer with us. That's right. Yep. Yep. Keep waiting. Keep taking your time. Unfortunately, that's what ends up happening. Does Crush get the nod with them or just axe and smash? Crush, if Crush is going to go in, Crush did enough in his career that he should go in on his own. I don't consider Crush to be a real member of Demolition. Demolition goes in, it's axe and smash. That's it. They may want to pay tribute to Crush in their speech, but to me, a Demolition induction does not include Crush. Yeah, axe and smash. Dallas. Who should beat Bandito for the Ring of Honor title? I think the better question is, who cares? I mean, have they built up anybody in Ring of Honor to even be a realistic option? He had that. I will say this. I did see the match he had with Hechicero when they had their match at the ROH show when they were in Philly a few weeks ago, and that was a tremendous match. Ring of Honor, though, doesn't have any sort of buzz. Like, nobody really gives a shit. Sorry, but nobody really does. Now, Bandito is supremely talented. So, as far as who he drops the championship to, I have no idea. They should probably just keep it on him for the foreseeable future because he's an excellent talent, and I don't know that they have a better person to take his place. Actually, Dr. Scorpio just had a great idea. Mercedes. She could collect another title. Mercedes is coming for Bandito. She'll enlist help from the Beast Mortos to help train her and teach her everything she needs to know about Lucha for the match against Bandito. Your next Ring of Honor World Champion, Mercedes Moné. That's how she gets that 10th title. She wins the ROH belt. Brody King? No. Brody, they're partners. They're still tag team champions after tonight, which surprised me. No, I don't see that. It says Raja Jackson versus Andrew Tate versus Logan Paul for the Universal title on the White House lawn, sponsored by Riyadh Season. Will hit like crack. The Universal title. Yeah, we can leave the Universal title in the dustbin of history. Do you think Brock will wrestle Sammy for the U.S. title in the Open Challenge as a surprise? Brock wrestling on TV. That's cute. Blue Neon, you gotta leave the jokes to Duff's Vids and Sidro, my friend. When will Brody King win the AEW World title? How about never? I don't see it happening. Does Dalton Castle still work for Ring of Honor? Yes. All right, I think I answered all your questions. Our little AMA here, that was fun. And more fun here answering your questions than I did in the opening match tonight on this show. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for hanging out with me. We peaked out almost 2,000, around 2,000 before. That was great to see. Hopefully you will join me again on Monday night for the Raw post show. So here's the plan. Episode 930 of the Sound Off is going to hit like crack at some point tomorrow in the afternoon. There's news to cover. I'll have some more thoughts about the WrestlePalooza stuff and where things may be going, but I will have my full AEW All Out review as part of the Sound Off tomorrow on the podcast. So that is where you will get my thoughts on the show. I still have to watch the main event, but that is where you will find my thoughts on the show. So, and I got a bunch of mailbag questions. I got some good questions too that you guys sent in to me. The Solomonster@gmail.com. So that'll be tomorrow. And then again, live back here again on Monday night for the Raw post show. And again, check out the new retro audio posted for channel members on the Legends tier. We've had a bunch of people that have joined or have upped their or converted their membership from superstar level to Legends tier to get the retro stuff. I appreciate that. There's going to be more classic audio going up in the weeks to come. So that is something to watch for. Be well. Stay safe. Slow King says, "Oh, you got me, brother.
Oh, you got me, brother.
You got me. You got me." I'm going to see you back here on Monday night for more live YouTube action. Hit that like button on your way out. Until then, take care, guys.